Well, I feel like I say this every time Brandy and I do a podcast, but that's because we do one like once every 9 months. But so it's been a hot minute. But we are back to talk about, funnily enough, a horror movie. It's actually been a minute since that, but also a sequel to what we talked about on our last podcast, which was probably last summer. But we talked about WandaVision, and now we are going to talk about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and we definitely have a lot to say. So yeah, but Brandy and I have a very awesome, hilarious guest this time, and I'm sure he'll entertain everybody. So Brandy, you want to introduce him?
Yes, and I agree with that. So we have Josh on with us, who has been on a podcast before, and we, I think too. I don't know if it's on your. I think it is on both of our channels. But when we were also streaming one time, we were streaming Revelations 1, I believe, Resident Evil Revelations 1, and he joined us then, which it's always fun, Josh. You are one of my favorite people to talk to because you're just so entertaining and funny. So welcome back to the podcast. I'm so glad you were able to do this with us because I'm so hyped to talk about it with you.
Oh my God! Thank you guys so much for having me again. It's always a blast talking to you guys, and I'm really excited to really tackle Doctor Strange 2 because that movie was definitely something else. So, really excited to be here. Thank you guys again.
Yay!
Yeah, I feel like it's a long time coming, and I said before we started this. That 90% of this podcast will probably be touching mostly on Wanda and everything that she's doing in this movie, because I do it goes back a little bit too, because I have memories, Josh, of you and I, because at that point Brandy was a loser and she just put down Marvel.
It's true, I'll admit it. You can totally make fun of me for that because it's true.
But I have memories of talking with you, Josh, quickly, just like, because we both have loved the Scarlet Witch for a long time, and we have different, maybe similar reasons. I've talked about the multiple reasons why I love the character so much in the WandaVision podcast that we did with Brandy. But yeah, no, I have memories of seeing Endgame for the first time, and you and I DMing on Twitter, so much happened in that movie, but of course all we wanted to talk about was fucking Wanda wrecking Thanos' shit, so it's very fun to have you here now to talk about her wrecking some other people's shit.
Yeah, absolutely. I do remember that, Wanda's scene in an Endgame particularly was really amazing to see on the big screen, and I remember us just geeking out about that because to see her, 1v1 Thanos and nearly kill him, that was really intense, and I just remember us freaking out. And, I feel like Doctor Strange 2 actually takes that one scene in Endgame and, multiplies it by 1,000. In this movie, there is so much that happens with a lot of the characters, and it really shows how powerful the Scarlet Witch is in the MCU. She is powerful in the comics as well, but movie in particular really depicted how powerful she is, and yeah.
Well, I think I also want to touch on a little bit, Brandy, of just introducing this. We talked about, again, on the WandaVision podcast, your journey, but number one, I want you to admit just how many times you've watched WandaVision, even though it's brand new to you. And two, your experience, because this was your first Marvel movie in theaters.
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, that's it's crazy.
What you wanted it to be, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I did explain this in the WandaVision podcast, but just to reiterate for everybody, and even you, Josh, you probably know this, because I feel like when I was so hyped to talk to you about WandaVision initially, I was like, shamefully admit I was not a Marvel fan before, but here, I'll sum it up a little bit. for years, my younger sister Brittany, shout out, she's awesome. Dylan knows her too, but she is a huge Marvel fan. So is my other, I mean, my family loves these movies and like have always tried to convince me, I guess is the right word, to watch them. And my biggest gripe, which I totally, people are gonna be like, wow, girl, really? But honestly, I was nervous because I first thought, okay, superheroes it's just not my genre, it's not my thing. I'm gonna probably be bored throughout majority of these. They're long movies, yada yada. I had all these excuses, and the bottom line was I just really thought that these were going to be really one-dimensional characters wearing capes, flying around. Like, I literally thought that. Like, I thought the kind of stereotypical superhero thing that I think a lot of people that aren't Marvel fans might think. So I was just very hesitant, and then fast forward, when COVID hit, one of the good things it's horrible to even say anything good came out of COVID, so I shouldn't word it that way, but just, I guess one of the more positive things was that Dylan and I had a lot more time to show each other things and watch things, and we started with a bunch of sitcoms from our childhood, like we did That 70s Show and Friends, and just different things we really wanted to share with each other, which was awesome. Dylan, shout out, our friendship is awesome. So one thing, he was like, Brandy, you have to like watch WandaVision, like I know you will love this. I just know, like, it's so awesome, I want to show it to you. And of course I had to catch up with the movie, so basically, long story short, I said that already and I'm going on and on, I do this a lot, but my sister had started showing me the Marvel movies, so I started with the first one with Iron Man, the original Iron Man, and I started going, and then I got to Ant-Man, I think. I don't know how many movies in that was, it was definitely a lot, and I was really enjoying them. I especially loved the Avengers ones where they all came together. I remember saying that to Dylan, like, it's so cool to see them all kind of come together after their individual stories. So it was already starting to appeal to me, but then I just kind of dropped off after Ant-Man, and I loved Ant-Man, so it wasn't anything like, oh, Ant-Man sucked, so now I don't want to continue the rest. I loved Ant-Man. I loved the whole concept of his powers of, like, going tiny and then big, and, like, I just thought it was really cool. But then I just dropped off for whatever reason. I didn't finish them. Well, finally, Dylan was like, fuck this, Brandy. Oh, yeah, and we can cuss on the podcast, Josh. We're not going to censor you. So finally, Dylan was just like, fuck this, Brandy. I really want you to see WandaVision. I just know you'll love it. I want to show it to you. So we're just going to watch all of Wanda's story. Now, I had already seen Age of Ultron. I had seen her introduction, and I knew she was Dylan's favorite. So then he just was like, all right, we're going to watch Civil War, Infinity War, and Endgame. And, dude, I was just blown away, obviously, by those movies. Everybody knows how fantastic those big epic movies of Marvel are, especially I know Endgame is so big, and and you guys were talking earlier about her moment in Endgame. It was fucking epic. But then when we got to WandaVision, I was so blown away by the storytelling and how unique it was and how emotional it was, and it was about this woman. I love that in a modern, when did WandaVision come out? It was 2020, right? Because it was was it released right before COVID?
Beginning of last year. It was like January 2021.
Oh, yeah, okay, wow, yeah, because I've been a fan for like a year now, wow. Time has been all kind of weird because of COVID, but I remember, I was like, wait, is that right? Yeah, that's right. But I just remember, like, I told Dylan this, I was just like, I don't know if I'm going to word this correctly or articulate it from what, I'm horrible at articulating things in my head. Sometimes I'm like, oh my god, I know why I love WandaVision so much, but sometimes it's hard to, I love it so much, it's hard to put it into words. But one thing I said to Dylan that I really appreciated about it was a story about, when you take away, like, WandaVision is not a simple story by any means. There's so many layers to it, and you're confused at first with the sitcom stuff, and then as you get in, it all makes sense. But I told Dylan, I love when you strip away all that. It's just a simple story about a woman grieving about somebody that she was in love with, and she also lost her family. It wasn't just about Vision. We see, like, her loss of her parents and her brother, so it's also about that. But, like, at the end of the day, like, the whole hex was created because she was grieving about, like, this. I say man, and I always laugh because I know he's a robot. People say that, whatever. But, Vision was also real, and he was especially real to her, and their relationship was very real. So to see that portrayed, just the simplicity of just a woman grieving, and this is her story. Oh my god, it just like really stood out to me. And I remember we got to the last episode at the very end of WandaVision, and Dylan goes, "Okay, Brandy, what do you think?" And I was just like, I need a minute, dude. Like, I need a whole day.
You had no thoughts. I was like, oh, Brian, I can't wait to hear what you think. And you had no thoughts because obviously that ending just gobsmacks you and you had no idea. Like, I need to process this. We'll talk later.
I did. I remember saying that to Dylan. I was so like, and my heart, this is going to sound so cheesy, but I don't care. Like, I am a very emotional person to begin with. And when I get invested in a story or characters, I feel for them, and like, dude, my heart like felt so heavy, my chest, like I literally felt at the end of WandaVision like probably what she was feeling, and it was just, oh my god, it just really got to me. And the whole thing with the grieving process, we did talk a little bit before we started recording the podcast, all three of us did talk about, and I said this and I will stand by this, I really do feel like WandaVision is one of the best representations of grief. The fact that it goes through all the stages and you see them, and whether or not you can relate to that level of grief, everybody's lost somebody in their life, or most people have anyway. I mean, if you haven't, then you're pretty lucky, I guess. And I just feel like I could relate it to my own life and my own traumas and things like that. And it was just, oh my god, it's just so much more than a quote unquote superhero story. And that's what I love about Marvel in general, but especially WandaVision was the thing that just really pulled me into this whole world of the MCU, and I'm so glad it did, and thank you, Dylan, for that, for doing that for me.
Well, that's a tease. You want to hear Brandy and I get all deep and heady and serious, and why we relate to WandaVision, go watch that podcast. But no, yeah. I remember, I told you before, Brandy, I watched WandaVision with a friend of mine every week that it came out, and I always say this to you, and Josh talked about this too earlier, before we were recording, but WandaVision was such a big fucking thing. Like, it was such an event, and everyone talked about it on Twitter after every episode and whatnot. And I feel like, again, that was around the time we started showing each other stuff, and I was just like, I feel like because you and I, Brandy, that's how we got on that kick of showing each other stuff. So we were watching so much shit anyways, and I was in the middle of watching WandaVision for the first time, and I was just like, God damn it, Brandy, can you get back to the Marvel movies? Because
yeah,
I want to show you how amazing the show is and how fucking amazing character and actress is and all the actors on that show.
Well, it's completely up my alley, and it proves how much of how good of friends we are and how well you know me. Because I remember you saying, like, I really do feel like you're going to enjoy the story, Brandy. I mean, it's up my alley in that the decade changes. I love that. You know, my whole thing is like, I'm going to sound like such a hipster, and I don't care, but you know, my whole thing is like, I love anything before my time. I know a lot of people say that nowadays, but I genuinely like grew up on old sitcoms and old music and just so I already knew that was going to appeal to me. All the little references to sitcoms that I love, like even though. Is it episode 8 that is Modern Family influenced, or is it 7?
7.
Yeah. So yeah, and I know they're all family sitcoms. So even though it wasn't a direct reference to The Office, the fact that they do like the Office-esque theme in that, and I love The Office, I was just like, oh my god, this is amazing. So even like for even the deep stuff and the emotional stuff aside that I ended up loving and being able to relate to, and the grieving and everything, just the whole like aesthetic of the show and the switching of the decades, and like that was so cool, and then the sitcom stuff, like it was so unique. I've never seen a show with that unique of a concept. I know that's a bold statement, there's a lot of shows out there and there's a lot of unique premises, but like that, to tie like sitcoms, different decades in with like the MCU stuff, like wow, I'm just like, I swear to God, it's like every time I watch WandaVision, it just blows me away. And it's like, I've seen it so many times by now, and I've watched it with so many different people, but every time I get to the end, I'm like, dude, there will never be another like this. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah. No, so that's, I guess, just the introduction and lead-in to what led us to Doctor Strange 2. But, I mean, well, I guess,
Josh, if you have if you want to add anything, because I know we went on about Wanda, but I know you love it too. So even if you kind of want to go on about like when you watch WandaVision, I'm fine. I'm the one editing this podcast apparently, so we can have it long, and I'll edit it down. It's fine.
Yeah, totally. No, honestly, WandaVision, it came at the perfect time. I would say, it was the first. It was the first Disney Plus like Marvel show, so we didn't know what to expect with this new medium that Marvel, the MCU, I should say, were going for. So it was like a new experience for everybody. But I will say that the show itself, just to touch on all the things that you said about tackling grief and just really depicting it in such a really raw way, but also tying it into the MCU, like it was really mesmerizing and just powerful at the end, like it really just kind of brought everything home. And I do remember that, like how much of a worldwide phenomenon WandaVision became. Like literally overnight, people who weren't even into the MCU, like an example like you got into this show because it was something that was unique and different. Not to say that the other movies and things in the MCU aren't, but WandaVision is built kind of different, and there are just
that's what makes it
so
awesome.
many people. Absolutely, and there were so many people just getting into the show. I remember my timeline on Twitter was just absolutely filled with so many speculations about the show and what to expect, and I don't think that I've seen that amount of hype and I guess discourse generated over. This is going to sound really biased, and it's not meant to shade any of the other Disney Plus MCU shows, but WandaVision's buzz online was just so massive. Like, when I tell you this thing reached all over the world, I'm going on Twitter, I'm seeing videos of drag queens at drag shows dressed as Wanda and Agatha and shit, and I'm losing my mind. Like, holy crap!
I love that.
This is insane,
I think Elizabeth Olsen said that in an interview too before. She literally said that, she didn't, when they shot WandaVision, wasn't really sure because, they're in their bubbles shooting it and they don't know how people are going to take it. They're either going to love it or not be along for the ride. But she said in an interview too, she was like, she knew WandaVision was a big deal when she was sent pictures from a drag brunch or something. And she was like,
awesome.
oh, this is
That's awesome. But it's awesome that it touched just so many different people. Like, Dylan, didn't you say that, I don't know if it was somebody in your family or you heard a story about, somebody was watching it they had it on and their grandmother happened to be in the room and she was like, what is this? And she got really interested in it because she saw, the I Love Lucy reference and the Dick Van Dyke stuff.
Yeah,
and,
I think that was
that's
what
cool.
made it such a, there was, the two sides of it. People were really clamoring for more Marvel stuff after there was a little bit of a lull. And so the Marvel people were excited to get back into the story. But no, it also had that. I heard a lot of stories about people who just saw the sitcom stuff and were really intrigued by that. They had no idea who Wanda and Vision were, and they had to be explained from, their kids had to, explain who Wanda and Vision are. But they were drawn for, the sitcom stuff.
Well, it's interesting because even my mom's a huge Marvel fan, so she had seen all the movies, but I just watched Wanda. She doesn't have Disney Plus, so she wasn't really caught up on all the shows. I just watched WandaVision with her for the first time, a couple weeks ago, Dylan? I know I was texting you. It was actually after Doctor Strange came out and I had already seen it, so yeah, it was not that long ago we sat and watched all of them, and she recognized every sort of homage that they put in there for. She was like, oh, this is the Bewitched house, and she knew all that stuff, and I was just like, see. And then my mom was born in the late 60s and had her teenage years in the late 70s and into the 80s, so when they did the what is it, the Brady Bunch, so she was like, oh my god, those are the Brady Bunch stairs. It was so cute because my mom loves Marvel anyway and she loved those characters, and my mom is, I'm just like her. She's emotional and a hopeless romantic, so she loved Wanda and Vision's story anyway and was really interested to see the whole show. But she really, of course, she was super confused by the sitcom stuff, and she was like, this is really interesting. And I'm like, yeah, that's why it's so unique, and it's just amazing. I know we definitely have to get into Multiverse of Madness, but I'm glad we all got to share, a little bit about, because WandaVision is where it all started for me personally, and I just love that, it's so loved, and it was such a big. Even I would see stuff on Twitter when I didn't even know what it was yet, or I was aware of it because of you, Dylan. Before I even watched it, I would see there was a thing of Vision when he looks at the camera. In the 7th episode of the Modern Family one, where he looks at the camera and everybody was putting that shot of Jim from The Office next to him, and since I'm an Office fan, I was like, what is this? That's hilarious, but I don't get it because I didn't understand. And then I would see a bunch of Elizabeth Olsen from the 50s episode, the very first episode, and just the way she was dressed and her hair, and I was like, oh my god, this is giving me I Love Lucy vibes, and I Love Lucy's one of my all-time favorites. So I would see that stuff on Twitter and be like, this looks cool, but I don't get it, obviously. Right. So but I was even aware of the hype, even though I had never watched it, but it's definitely, it definitely deserved all the praise that it got, for sure.
Yeah. And I guess, unless there's anything else you want to say about WandaVision, but I guess to lead into Doctor Strange, going off of WandaVision, I do love that, because, again, I've loved the character for so long, and talk about Doctor Strange, it is his movie, and I have stuff to say on him, too, but, I love the character for so long. I know Josh relates to that too, but for the longest time, she was just I know nobody really paid attention to the Wanda and Vision scenes in Infinity War. Like, it didn't really get a reaction, which is crazy to me because that's what I was focusing on. But no, the fact that the show gave the character such a platform, and Elizabeth Olsen such a platform, people really could see how phenomenal an actress she is. Just to be able to play in that sandbox was very, very cool and very gratifying to see the character get the love that she's deserved for a long time. But yeah, if we want to go into Doctor Strange 2, Multiverse of Madness, I've been hyped for this for a long time. I have a funny little story. Even when they first announced Multiverse of Madness, I think it was a Comic-Con where they announced like the next slate of shows, and this was before COVID. But the same friend that I ended up watching WandaVision with, I remember messaging and texting them when I think they were like live streaming that Comic-Con or something, but when Kevin Feige announced Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, I immediately went to Twitter and I was like, God damn, Wanda better be in this movie because it's a perfect fit, and I want to see her, get into that magic side of Marvel, which she really hadn't been until WandaVision. And then literally 5 minutes later, that friend messaged me and said, are you still watching it? Because they then immediately said, oh, yeah, she's in it too. So that got me hyped. So that was, I guess, the beginning of my hypeness for this movie. But Doctor Strange is also in my top 5 favorite characters for sure. I do, his arc specifically, I do have stuff to say on that I do really like. But, I guess just jumping into the movie, if you guys have anything to say to start. Expectations or hype or, your initial thoughts and all that.
Josh, you're the guest, so I will let you go first, because I know we talked a little bit, but I am honestly very curious of your thoughts, because of course Dylan and I talked about it with each other already, which I never get tired of talking about it anyway, so I'm hyped for all of us to talk about it, but I really want to know, if you kind of want to start, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Going back to what you said, Dylan, about, the announcement at Comic-Con or the convention or whatever, when Benedict Cumberbatch came on stage and Kevin Feige said, behind every sorcerer is a good witch or something like that, and Elizabeth Olsen came on stage, and it was like, they're going to be teaming up in this movie, and I was really excited about that because, after the events of Endgame, you really didn't know where Wanda's story was going to go, because I don't think that WandaVision had even come out yet when.
No, I don't think so, because I think at that same comic they announced WandaVision, and then Elizabeth Olsen came back on stage when they announced Doctor Strange 2. So no, it was just Endgame. Yeah, was where they had left her when they announced all of it.
Right, exactly. So with that in mind, it was like, holy crap, okay, this is going to be really good. We're going to see Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch team up. Not only that, but, you kind of get a little bit more excited, especially if you're a fan of the comics, because that this is going to start tapping into the more magical side of, the MCU, especially with Wanda as a character, because up until WandaVision, we just knew that she just had right energy, but then WandaVision came and confirmed it to actually be chaos magic, which was a nice little twist on that, so you go back and look at all the movies, Age of Ultron, Civil War, and back then you're thinking, oh, it's just red energy, but no, she's like harnessing chaos magic from day one, which is pretty awesome. And ultimately, Scott Derrickson, I believe, was supposed to direct Multiverse of Madness, but he ended up leaving for creative differences. So when Sam Raimi got on board, I was already hyped from the beginning because I'm a huge Sam Raimi fan. Evil Dead, Spider-Man trilogy.
Yes, Evil Dead. Shout out Evil Dead. I love it.
Hell yeah. It just completely, I love his work, and Drag Me to Hell, just all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So I knew that this movie was going to be different, from your typical MCU movie. I just didn't prepare myself for how different, because it was quite different in the best ways possible.
Yeah.
There's something that a lot of people talk about when they're discussing this movie, and and I hate to sound like a broken record, but it's true. Like a lot of these MCU movies, they're already basically filmed, and the director isn't necessarily like, they don't have the freedom to kind of like lend their specific styles to like whatever film they're directing. But Sam Raimi was all over like
Yeah.
Multiverse of Madness, like his
Yeah.
entire style. It was like they just took the collar off of him, like the leash, and just let him loose into the wild. And you see his staples all over this movie. So
Yeah.
I was really excited from the beginning, but yeah.
Well, yeah, I was going to add to that too, like just the Sam Raimi stuff. Evil Dead is also a movie that Brandy showed me over that time period, which I'd seen it, but not a long time. And it was one of her favorites, and that was very awesome. And even though it's not a movie I've seen a ton, Sam Raimi's camera movements are very iconic. Like, it's not even a horror moment, but every time I've seen it 3 times now. I just saw it again today, but it's not even a horror moment. But literally, it's like a, it's at the beginning of Multiverse of Madness when Doctor Strange goes to Christine's wedding and she's marrying someone else. There's literally a fucking Sam Raimi whip pan or camera swirl just going from Doctor Strange looking at Christine coming down the aisle, and it's like, that's not even a horror moment, and it's like, wow, look at your fucking camera movements, dude.
Yeah, he's iconic. That's so true. He's iconic. And I just thought the whole going back to what Josh said too, like the whole tone of this movie felt so different than, and again, I know I say this to Dylan all the time, and I just sometimes feel like, not that you guys would ever judge me or say anything about this, but I just always feel kind of weird like talking about Marvel stuff because I'm so new. So I feel like when I say something like this, I could probably get people being like, well, have you even seen all the movies? And I will say, just for the record, the only Marvel movies I have yet to see, I've watched almost all of them, but the only ones I have not seen, which yeah, in the MCU, and I'm planning on going back and eventually watching them, but I think the only ones, I think I told you the other day, Dylan, we figured it out, the only ones I have not seen yet is Ant-Man 2. Is it called Ant-Man and the Wasp, I think? Yeah. I haven't seen that, and I plan to because I loved the first one, and I fucking love Paul Rudd. Yeah, and then I haven't seen Captain Marvel. Is that what it is? Yeah. But I'm planning on watching that one too, because initially I was kind of gonna skip that one because I don't know, I've just not heard really great things. But I loved Monica Rambeau so much as a character in WandaVision. Like, she literally is one of my favorite characters. She's fucking amazing. I will never stop praising her. I love her so much. So I want to go back and see like her beginnings. I know she's in that. So So yeah, and it was those two, and I think Guardians of the Galaxy too. I think those are literally the only 3 movies from what I can, and some of the newer ones. Like, I didn't see the Black Widow movie, and I love Black Widow, so I'm planning. I didn't hear great things about that either, but again, I always go to see stuff for myself. So, and this isn't a Black Widow discussion, so you guys can always give me your opinions about that, like, if you guys both saw it. But that's just what I heard. But still planning on. I want to see that. But overall, I've seen everything that would link to Doctor Strange, and no, that's a lie too, because I never, this is shameful to admit, I've never seen any, and again, I'm planning on watching them, guys, I swear. I've never seen any of the Spider-Man movies, not any of the original ones with Tobey Maguire, not any of them. And I love Tom Holland so much in Civil War. Like, I know that's when he first kind of comes in with like the Avengers, at least that's what I remember. And I love him so much, and I think he's a great actor, and he's freaking adorable and just amazing. So I really am planning on going back, and so I think that those, in terms of bigger movies, I feel like the Spider-Man ones are the ones that I would probably get the most hate for. Like, really, girl, you need to watch the Spider-Man. And that's totally fair. I get that they're very popular. And I do want to see them, so that's fair. But, okay, huge tangent aside, what I was going to say, if I can even remember now, I just feel sometimes weird giving my opinion, like, of this or this because of, like, not, I feel like almost a fake fan in a way, because I really did get into the MCU because of WandaVision, but hey, that's the power of WandaVision for you, so there you go. Wow, I don't even remember where I was going with this. That's bad. I'm like, what were we talking? So we were talking about Sam Raimi at first, but then we had mentioned, I was gonna say something, and then I was like, I feel weird saying this because of it, but I should just stop feeling that way and just say it. But now I don't remember. I'm sure my memory is so bad; it always does this. So I'm sure I'll remember and be like, oh, I remember now, and I'll jump in. But if you guys have anything else to add or say, feel free, because that's embarrassing, but
You're
Well-
totally fine, honestly. No, I'm sorry, Dylan. You go ahead.
Oh no, that's fine. I was just gonna say like, so we're talking about Sam Raimi, but I feel like as we go through certain sequences and stuff, there'll be more specific things that we'll remember and want to bring up in certain sequences.
yeah.
And as I said earlier, it's just we can't help ourselves. We'll largely be focused on Wanda's arc. But what I did want to say, and then I'm curious if you guys have anything to add to it, I do really love Doctor Strange's arc in this movie too. Like, and it kind of, I'm sure you watched What If, Josh, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Brandy has only seen the zombie episode because Wanda was in it, and zombies. So I was like, oh,
And
Brandy, I'm
Paul
going to show you that.
Bettany was Vision, which I thought was
Yeah.
awesome. I'm a huge Paul Bettany nerd and a Vision whore, so I loved that already. But yeah, it was cool to see Wanda as a zombie too. So I do want to go back and watch all of that too. See, I have so much to catch up on. But
But I was going to say, to What If, or I guess connecting to What If, like I said, I really did love Doctor Strange's arc in this, because throughout the course of the movie, multiple characters keep asking him, like, is he happy and whatever, and Christine is, I guess, was the love of his life, and that just never worked out, and it was very interesting to see, no matter what universe, they just never were able to make it work, and that kind of, I liked that a lot, only because, well, first of all, I think those two actors, Benedict Cumberbatch and Rachel McAdams, they're great, especially in the roles, but it kind of
yes,
harkened
I
back
agree.
to,
I have to say that.
yeah. It kind of, his arc in this movie, and a reason why I liked it a lot, because it kind of harkened back to what I think is the best episode of What If, which relates not only because of Doctor Strange, but because of the multiverse and all that shit. But episode 4 of What If is probably my favorite, because it literally has to do with a Doctor Strange in a universe where he can't let. I think the episode was like Christine's death in that universe was like an absolute point. So he just kept rewinding time, no matter what. She kept dying. So even in that universe, they weren't able to be together. So I just love the connection to it here. That no matter what, it's sad and fucked up, and you know.
Damn, that's sad. And What If? I didn't know that. That's fucked
That
up.
episode is fucking dope, man. Like, no matter what,
They just can't be together.
yeah. In any
Sounds like Wanda and Vision. They just never. He died like 5 times already.
Seriously. It's so sad.
I know.
Like, no, I feel like Brandy brings up like a really good point, like in terms of like Wanda and Vision, like their story is just so tragic, and in WandaVision, like it's like the characters are played so well. You have Paul Bettany playing the synthezoid, and it's believable, like that he is this fresh out of the mechanical cradle. I can't say womb because he's human.
Oh, that was a good way to put it, though, Josh. I like that. I'm going to use that for Vision. And yes, shout out Paul Bettany. I've kind of always liked Paul Bettany anyway. So him as Vision, definitely an amazing performance. He deserves more credit. I feel like as an actor, I feel like he doesn't get a whole lot of love. Elizabeth Olsen herself as well, but I think she's definitely blown up since WandaVision. I know people love Vision too, and people like Paul Bettany, but I just think he really deserves more credit as an actor. I mean, he played Vision. He played the shit out of Vision, if I can say it like that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I feel like, like we all know that Elizabeth Olsen like completely knocked WandaVision out of the park, like having to play all of those different eras, and really capture like grief in such a believable way, and so convincing the way that she was able to do it, But Paul Bettany, like his portrayal of Vision, especially in WandaVision, I would say like he's such a heartfelt character, and you in time, I'm sure on the outside looking in, you'll look at like, oh, this girl likes a robot. What the hell? What's going on with that? But it's like, wait.
Yeah, it could have been very silly. It could have been really, like, it portrayed wrong. It could have just came off so not believable and dumb. Like, oh, how would this, this human female fall for this, synthesis? But, like, but it's not like that at all. It's portrayed so well, and the actors.
Yeah, I was going to say that too. If it wasn't for the writing and their chemistry, it probably might not have worked.
Yeah.
Oh, their chemistry is so on point. Anybody that I've ever watched WandaVision with has literally said, like, oh my god, like, it's just, they're just so believable, like, together, and they, oh my god, the chemistry is fantastic.
Since
Exactly.
we brought up Vision and Paul Bettany quickly, I'm sure this could have been brought up later, but Brandy and I have talked about it, Josh, and Elizabeth Olsen has kind of explained it away in an interesting way in some interviews. But is it weird to... I talked with Brandy about this, but I guess I'll ask you, Josh, too. It's a little fucking weird throughout this movie that... I guess I understand her motivation is try and be reunited with her children in some universe, but isn't it just weird that no matter how many times we went back to what it was Earth 838, the other Wanda and her kids, Vision is just nowhere to be found.
Or not even mentioned. I would have even just, like, where's Dad? And maybe she said, oh, he's at work, or just some type of mention of Vision would have been nice, but...
It was just weird.
Yeah.
The impact of WandaVision. Even if her motivation is her kids in this, just to mention it.
Which is totally believable and fine. Any mother that loses a child.
I want to bring up, like, Elizabeth Olsen's explanation for that, too, in a minute. But, I was just curious.
Yeah, Josh, because Dylan and I, like he said, we talked about that, and I definitely thought it was weird as well. Do you have any thoughts on, like, the absence of Vision, or even, like, Paul Bettany returning at all in this movie? Or I guess it's a good segue into that. We're going to go all over the place in terms of, like, the movie structure, and I'm totally fine with that, because we all love to talk to each other. We all love hearing each other's opinions, so if we kind of jump all over, but I guess that was a good segue, Dylan, because we were talking about how much we all love Paul Bettany and Vision anyway. So what do you think of that, Josh? Like, the lack of even mentioning Vision? Well, Wanda does in that amazing line, which we can talk about that in it. But, like, what Dylan said, like, when we go back to Westview in that house,
Yeah.
Like, how do you feel about that?
It's a little complicated because I mean, like I was saying before about Wanda and Vision, like, Paul Bettany playing Vision so well, it's like, you can see why this woman has fallen in love with this synthezoid, because he's such a good...
Yes, I did too, so I get it.
Like, yeah, like, he's such a good non-person, like, because he's not a person. Like,
so
he's just
true.
so, like so warm and gentle and caring, yet he's one of the most powerful Avengers, and it's so beautiful. As far as his lack of, like, his presence in Multiverse Madness, I was a little confused about that. I feel like, if anything, the writers, they probably, like, which I think you guys, like, briefly touched on earlier, I feel like the writers probably wanted the focus to be more on her grief over the lack of her children. They probably saw, like, they probably thought that, okay, WandaVision was about Wanda and Vision. Like, we've already been there, done that. So now let's focus on the children now, and you see it in, like, with these movies and the shows, like, they're slowly adapting a lot more of her iconic, like, arcs in the comic books and everything like that.
Yeah.
So it makes sense, but like, I mean, is there, like, a definite confirmation to explain his absence? You were mentioning that Elizabeth Olsen explained something.
I think it was just her kind of theory. I don't know if that was ever told to her, but no, she was asked that in an interview that I watched. Like, where is Vision, in that universe? And she explained it away and, like, why is the character, you mentioned, like, the writing standpoint, but, like, she was also asked, why is the character solely focused on her children and not Vision anymore? And she kind of explained away that maybe in that universe, either Vision doesn't exist anymore, or she's like, maybe that Wanda's just, like, a single mom. Maybe she divorced that robot, which they get divorced in the comics. So maybe just in that universe they just weren't together anymore for whatever reason.
Well, that makes me heartbroken and sad, but it does make sense. And her focusing on her children, I know that's a thing in the comics, because you told me, Dylan.
Yeah.
And it totally makes sense from I'm not a mother, so I don't have children, so I can't relate to that feel. But I have a mother, obviously, that I'm extremely close to, and I mean, any mom, any parent, I shouldn't even just say any parent that loses a child. I mean, I've seen and read it. It's like literally they say it's the worst pain in the entire world, the worst emotional pain that one can suffer. I mean, any death is horrible, but your kid, like, you don't ever want to lose your kid. So
yeah. No, that was her explanation too, as to why she's just focused on her kids, because she said that. She basically said, you know, I think she's even said the same thing you just said, Brandy. She said, I'm not a mother. But she explained it the same way, just imagining that, yes, you know, she's lost so much, but the greatest loss that any person could experience is probably the loss of your children. So it makes sense in that way why she'd be so laser focused on them. And I also feel like the end of WandaVision, she's very accepting of letting Vision go. So
I guess that's true, because it does go through the stages of grief, and eventually, you know, the last stage is acceptance, and I guess she ends up. But I do love that it's still open-ended when they say, you know, we'll say hello again, because, I mean, I personally, I'm sure you guys feel the same way. I know we're all three super huge Wanda fans in general, specifically, obviously, you guys loved her even way longer than I did, obviously, and you guys are familiar with the comics where I am not, but I think I personally, and you guys can say whatever you want about it, but I personally would just love to see WandaVision reunite, of course. I mean, we had the whole show, and maybe some people are like, oh, that you know, Wanda can move away from that now, she's kind of done with that, but I would love Paul Bettany to return as that character. He's so good, as we said, and I would love for them to reunite eventually. If they don't do it right away, that's fine. If they want to have her focus on other things and you know, and bring more stuff in from the comics, but I would just love for them to, I mean, they're just so adorable together, and the chemistry, like we said, is just there and amazing, so I would love it.
Well, I just wanted to quickly mention, just bouncing off what you just said, Brandy, that, you know, maybe people thought that they did that or whatever with Vision. They could take a break. They could take a break from their relationship for a little bit, and White Vision's fucked off somewhere. And,
White Vision's still out there floating around.
But I don't know. They could have wanted to have a little break. She could come back from the dead, have a few rebounds, because in the comics, I don't know if I've ever said this to you, Brandy, her taste is all over the place, because she loves Vision, a robot, and then also in certain comics, do you remember Nightcrawler, Brandy?
Yes.
In certain comics, I think it's also like an alternate reality kind of thing. She has a whole thing with him, like, she likes the robots, the blue
guys. Yeah, she's got unique taste.
Mutant that looks like a demon. They also have a kid in some other reality.
Oh my God.
She gets amnesia at some point in the comics and is like hooking up with Doctor Doom, this Fantastic Four villain. And then so you got a robot.
Get it, Wanda. Wanda's getting around, and I'm here for it.
Mutant, a Fantastic Four supervillain, and then she also happens in the comics to have like a relationship with. You got all those weirdos. And then she happens to also just have a relationship with some hunky actor who happens to be an Avenger. So,
there you go, Wanda.
If she can have some rebounds before they reunite.
I think one of the more recent romances that we had, I think was with Brother Voodoo, if I'm not mistaken. That was one too. He's like a Sorcerer Supreme, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, with who?
Brother Voodoo.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was like another one. And then, God, was there one with Black Bolt? I cannot remember. Like, she like, you're right. She has. Oh, God.
I just love this. I just love breaking down the plethora of the various
lovers
she's attracted to in the comics. Like, it's not just one type of dude. It's like all kinds of shit.
I think the most iconic one that she's stuck with, though, was Vision, and that's probably why that's the one that we see, like, you know, more depicted.
Well, and like we said, like, and even though that is hilarious, I'm glad you told me that, Dylan. I never knew that, you know, Wanda, there you, girl, you do you, girl. I love that. And she's hot enough, just you do you. But I think that the chemistry and the writing between Wanda and Vision in the MCU specifically, I know you said they have deep, great moments in the comics too, and they really do love each other in the comics, but I just think, I think you even told me, Dylan, that, like, just the you just, like, the relationship is even, I mean, is it fair to say that the relationship between Wanda and Vision depicted in the MCU, including, of course, WandaVision, like, would you say that it is portrayed a little bit more emotional and deeper than because he doesn't die, or does he die the way Thanos kills him in I know we're going off on so many tangents, we can definitely get back to Multiverse. I'm just curious, like, does he get the stone ripped out of his head and die?
No.
Okay. Because that was sad as shit, and I still can't watch that scene without fucking crying, but anyway. But, I mean, if we want to bring it back to Multiverse. Oh my god, I totally remembered what I was going to say. I feel like the tone of Multiverse of Madness was just so different and unique compared to other Marvel movie, and the whole reason I felt weird saying that is because some people could argue, well, you've never even seen every single Marvel movie, but I feel like I've seen enough of them now, and I do really feel like maybe because of the Sam Raimi influence that Multiverse of Madness definitely has a darker tone, which I am here for. I freaking love that. Was one of my favorite parts, were the horror elements. I know we kind of already talked about that, but one scene I have to mention, and again, we're going to be all over the place with timing, so it doesn't really matter, but when she crawled out of that gong, holy shit, that scared the... I mean,
What's up, podcast?
Oh my god, babe,
What's
we're
up,
recording.
podcast?
Go away.
Yeah, come on, I want to be famous.
I'm going to have to edit around
No,
you.
don't you edit this. I'm famous. Tell everybody I said hi.
Everybody
Hi,
can
people.
hear. It's just Josh and Dylan.
Hi, Josh and Dylan and other people in the future. The millions of people that are listening
Oh my
to this.
god. Well, you watch Multiverse of Madness. What did you think of it?
I thought it was pretty neat.
Okay. That's Ed. They're laughing at Dylan.
That's Ed's cameo.
That's...
That was a pretty...
It was pretty neat. I love that. There's no other further explanation, just neat.
That's all
Okay.
you need to know. It's a neat
Ed
movie,
McGuire,
yeah.
Multiverse of Madness was neat. Okay, we're gonna quote that. But anyway, no. But when that was one of the horror moments that I was like, oh my god. When she crawled out of the gong, I talked to you guys about it earlier, and Dylan, I've said it to you a million times, but it really gave me Samara vibes of like crawling up the well in the second one, or even crawling out of the TV. It was so well done and genuinely. I knew there were going to be horror elements in this, but I was pretty, and you guys can both speak on this too. I was blown away at the actual amount. I shouldn't have been, because it was Sam Raimi and he always delivers, and I'm a huge Evil Dead fan, but I was like, oh, it's a Marvel movie. Are they really going to go that dark? And they freaking did. So what are your guys' thoughts? I know we talked about the horror stuff, but like especially that gong scene and just the horror touches in general. What do you guys think?
I would say that, like, you know, when I did find out early on, you know, during that announcement at the convention that this would be the MCU's first horror movie, it just never dawned on me that a lot of that horror would be coming from Wanda herself. You know, like I thought that it was going to be like external beat teaming up against, you know. Like,
no, literally, Dylan and I'm just quickly going to say this before I forget, because you know how my mind be. Dylan and I said that. I said I was really surprised, and we can talk more about villainous. Of course, most of our discussion is going to be Wanda focused, but like the fact that the horror, was mainly coming from her, I was like, whoa, that's pretty dope and pretty creepy and awesome.
Well, I mean, there's I'm sure there's a lot of difference, and I know I definitely want to talk about the horror moments in. Because we're talking about when she attacks Kamar-Taj. I know her other sequence with the Illuminati. I definitely want to talk about that as well. But I guess just dovetailing off of that, I love how, I think I said this to you, Brandy, when we first talked after we first saw it. I love how fucking smart she is in that scene. That Strange traps her in that mirror dimension, and it takes her like a minute to just know that she can use the reflections of the mirror to warp. She uses her powers to warp reality and make that reflection water. And then when they're trying to cover the puddles and whatnot, and you see her fucking eyeball in one of the puddles, and then she uses the reflection of the gong and crawls out. Like, that was not only fucking terrifying and chilling, but I love how smart she is. Like, Strange thinks she's got her. Like, I got you, bitch. You're trapped in the mirror dimension. It takes half a second to get out of there.
Wanda's like, no, bitch. Actually, no.
Yeah. It was really good. Like, all the horror aspects of it. Like, again, I truly did not know that all of the horror would be coming from Wanda herself. I thought that it was going to be like, you know, demons from other realities that were going to be like, scary or something like that, but you know, we have Wanda crawling out of gongs, freaking Pennywise from It, and like we have
That's a good one. It's a good comparison.
like it was just like, all these things that she's doing, later on, like she's definitely giving like Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers when she's like chasing after Christine, America, and Strange, and at the Illuminati base, and they're dropping all these like shutter doors to try and stop her, and she's just like
yes,
like blasting through them and like limping after them like a fucking psychopath. And it was like oh my god, like Wanda, like it was so crazy to see all the horror elements coming from it. And then like not to like spoil, because I know that we're gonna like get into detail on this later in the conversation, but like the freaking like screams that I heard in my theater when Wanda is going up against Professor Xavier in his like little mind, like his little I don't know, astral world or whatever he was into. Like when the red smoke comes up behind him, like you don't really know what to expect. You think that like maybe she's just gonna, it's just gonna consume him like the smoke, and you won't see him anymore, and that's how he'll die. But like all of a sudden you just see this demon Wanda like pop out of that smoke and like rip his head in half, like so quick, and like my theater like was like audibly screaming because I don't think anyone was expecting.
Oh my god!
And it was just so horrifying, but like in the best ways,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, no, and as a horror fan, obviously Dylan and I are huge. You're a horror fan too, right, Josh? We were talking about Carrie earlier. I know. Yeah, I figured, and I feel like I've seen stuff that you've said before. Yeah, that you definitely are a horror fan. So yeah, as a horror fan, that's why I think the horror elements really stood out to me. And yeah, the demon Wanda, if we're already going to talk about that, holy shit, I didn't expect, just like you said, Josh, you didn't really know what to expect when of what was going to happen there. Obviously didn't expect the way she killed Xavier, but even just the face, I was like, why did they do that? That's horrifying. And again, in the best way possible.
Well, I guess I mentioned it earlier, if we're going to talk about that specific scene quickly. I said earlier, not when we were recording, but that is one of my favorite scenes in the movie. I think it's just done so well, and also, I've told Brandy this before, and probably you at some point, Josh, but like, one of the big reasons why I was hyped for Wanda to be introduced in the MCU in the first place is because I don't read Avengers comics really. I don't read any of that stuff, but X-Men are my fucking baby. And she's a mutant in the comics, and I hope that comes down the line in the movies. I think it's still possible. So just for that reason, and for her to she has one-on-ones with everybody, but for Professor X to be the last one, and you think, oh shit, if anybody can stop her, it might be Professor X. And I just love the way he comes into the scene. First of all, it's because you're in a wheelchair and you're slower, Charles. But like he waits until she's killed everybody. And then he comes in and he's like, enough. I love that scene. It is funny that he just waited until everyone was dead before he stepped in.
I never thought about that. That's hilarious.
But no, I love that whole sequence just for the X-Men of it, seeing Wanda interact with Professor X and Patrick Stewart's Professor X at that.
Shout out Patrick Stewart. He's amazing.
No, I love the whole scene of, it's very creepy when he enters her mind on the astral plane. And I love the specifics of that scene. I love him going through that door and like the whole room's white, but it's really just the rubble of her childhood home that is in, I guess, her astral plane or her mind or whatever. That's very creepy that they set it there. But it's just the rubble of her house. You even see a tiny old TV tipped over, and you can see the first episode of WandaVision on that TV, like the opening, which is very cool. And again, I just love that I thought if anybody, I mean, everyone else is getting killed, so I was like, okay, unfortunately Professor X is going to get killed, but again, I thought if anybody can break through to her, and even tries to with the Wanda from the other universe that's trapped in the mind or whatever, he even tries to pull her out. And that was fucking creepy. And then, of course, she comes and snaps his neck
and looks like a freaking demon while doing
this.
Shit out of me.
Well, I told Brandy this before, Josh, but on Twitter, it was a tweet that I saw, because Wanda's blown up in popularity. It literally was just a tweet that was the MCU's new It Girl. It was just a screenshot of her looking horrifying with her sharp teeth and her sharp hands. MCU's It Girl. She's the focus now. But just
they
quickly,
really made her look creepy as fuck, though, in that scene. It was horrifying. In, again, a great way, because I love horror, but I was like, I didn't expect beautiful Elizabeth Olsen, who's always so gorgeous, especially in her Scarlet Witch getup. She always looks like a freaking queen, and then she just, like, is like, I'm a demon, let me snap your... It's fucking so scary.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, just quickly, I wanted to say, before we move on from that, I gotta get all my X-Men nerdiness out, since we're talking about Professor X, but I love the... I just remember another little moment from that scene, but I love him being in his yellow chair from the 90s animated series, and from the 90s comics as well, but it's very iconic from that. And it's not my favorite X-Men animated series. I've shown you, Brandy, a little bit of Evolution, and like Goth Wanda, her episode where they kind of got influenced
Goth Wanda is
for Ultron.
Hot. I love Goth Wanda. Yeah.
But I love the... and it's only something you notice if you watch that show growing up, but I love this when Professor X just first enters, you hear his voice, they're playing the 90s theme, which is very fucking iconic and awesome. And then just the last thing on Professor X and the X-Men, Days of Future Past, which I've shown Brandy, it's my favorite movie, I think. Just period. So I love that he even had a little line there. Xavier in this says an exact line that he says to his younger self in Days of Future Past. He says it's Doctor Strange in his introductory scene. Just because someone stumbles and loses your way doesn't mean you're lost forever. I love that they brought that line back, especially from arguably the best X-Men movie. And it's not just needless fan service, because I talked to Brandy about it, that that line is beautiful, but it also perfectly, like, just because someone stumbles and loses their way doesn't mean they're lost forever. Like, that's talking about Wanda at this moment.
That's so Wanda
encapsulated. At this moment. So
yeah.
It was kind of perfect. It wasn't just needlessly thrown in, but it was also really awesome. So.
No, I caught on to that. I was like, that sounds familiar, but I didn't fully remember it was from Days of Future Past until you told me, but it definitely fits with Wanda, and I love it. But I guess Josh, do you have anything to sort of add, or anything you want to say, like, about, like, I guess, since we're on it, I guess, to finish up on the Xavier cameo, it was it was a little bit spoiled in the trailer, and we can talk a little bit about that, and I guess if we're going to talk about Professor X, we can talk about the lack of cameos and how people feel about that, but what did you feel of, anything Dylan said, if you want to comment on, or anything on Xavier specifically, that'd be cool.
Yeah, as an X-Men fan as well, growing up with the comics and the 90s cartoon, like, as soon as he, like, rolled in, or hovered in, I should say, you hear that, na-na-na-na-na, like, immediately, you, like, hearing that jingle, like, my entire theater just erupted, like, yeah! Like, it was just,
that's
like,
awesome.
Everybody was so excited, and as much as I really did enjoy this movie, like, I feel like that one moment where he wheels in and goes, like, we should tell him the truth, like, I feel like that should have been left out of the trailer, because, like, as soon as the trailer dropped, we hear, like, Patrick Stewart has, like, one of the most iconic voices, anybody can, like, pick him out of, like, a group, so it's like, okay, you expect us to believe that this is someone else, So it was kind of already spoiled in the trailer that he was going to be in it, and I feel like it probably would have hit a lot different had that been kept a secret, But I do understand that they wanted to generate hype, but such a massive character like him, probably should have kept that under wraps a bit. But yeah, it just overall, I did enjoy his cameo. I did enjoy him being there for the short amount of time that he was there, and his addition just kind of, like, opens up so many more possibilities.
That's
for
true.
The future of the
Yeah.
MCU and possibly even more X-Men to show up, and I'm really excited at that. So yeah.
Yeah. Because finally, I guess with all the rights being settled and everything now, they finally can come together. And that's why when Dylan was saying earlier about, hopefully, because that's her backstory in the comics, that they'll end up allowing, or having it be said that Wanda is actually a mutant. Because Agatha says something in WandaVision that's like, oh, is it
The Mind Stone?
or the Mind Stone? Oh my God! See, I'm not a WandaVision fan after all, I guess. But when she's like the Mind Stone amplified. What would have? What does she say again? What's the full line?
She says it amplified what would have otherwise died on the box.
Yeah. So that means Wanda always, even in the MCU Wanda always had something in her, so they could always pull from that and make her a mutant, which would be awesome. But yeah, I guess on I pretty much agree with what you guys both said. The Xavier cameo was amazing. I totally agree with what you also said, Josh, about it being spoiled in the trailer, which is kind of like, I feel like because of that is the reason why a lot of people are pissed about the lack of cameos. So if we kind of want to go into that and kind of give all of our thoughts on that. I know we have so much just more to say about Wanda, but just to kind of, because we already talked about Xavier, if you guys want to kind of briefly talk about what you guys felt about the cameos. Josh, if you want to start, again, you're our guest. Dylan and I have talked about it amongst ourselves, but of course we'll share on the podcast. But if you kind of want to start what your personal feelings are about the lack of cameos and kind of how people are dealing with that, feel free to start.
Yeah, I mean, like I know that a lot of people got their hopes up for like a multitude of just it seems like they wanted this movie to just be a giant cameo fest, and I understand that because you hear multiverse and you kind of, I guess, assume that it's going to be just filled with Deadpool's gonna show up and then you're gonna see Blade and all these other characters and stuff like that. The lack of cameos, I thought personally we got some pretty good ones, but for a lot of other people it was not enough. I personally did not mind because I was only there to see the Scarlet Witch, so the cameos were kind of just some pickles on the burger, if you will. It was just all right, it's there, but
not really
I'm
needed.
here.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
true. Yeah.
I was there with the Scarlet Witch, so either or, you can put whoever you want or take away whoever you want, and but yeah, the cameos, it was pretty cool to see a Captain Marvel variant of Maria Rambeau, Monica's mother, and seeing her come back. It was really cool to see somebody who has been fan casted for Reed Richards for ever, John Krasinski.
Oh yeah, John Krasinski, woo!
Yeah, people have been fan casting him like crazy, and and that's another thing really quickly, is I love that Kevin Feige, it's this dude, he has his eyes and ears on the interwebs, and he's looking out there.
Yes.
He's noticing what people are clamoring for, what people want, because funnily enough, Tiana Paris, the one who played Monica Rambeau.
Monica, I love her.
She was she was actually fan casted by fans.
I didn't know that, really.
Wow. Yeah, I wasn't aware either. Until I saw in an interview that she said that people were fan casting her, just tagging her in this. Oh, you should play grown up Monica Rambeau.
Oh my God, that's awesome. That gives me a whole more what's the right word? I guess a whole multitude more of respect for freaking Kevin Feige, because he actually does. Because when John Krasinski appeared, Dylan had told me that was a fan cast decision. People really wanted to see that. When he appeared, my theater erupted into applause, and of course I love The Office, and I didn't really fully understand the impact because I've never seen Fantastic Four, and I'm not a comic book fan. Everybody feel free to hate on me, that's fine. But Dylan had told me that, so I knew that was a thing. So even when I saw him, and I love The Office, I love John Krasinski anyway, I loved A Quiet Place, I just think he's a fantastic actor. So even when I saw him in my theater, of course, like I said, started to applaud. I was like, yay! I didn't really, I wasn't, but I mean, again, Dylan had informed me that this is and I just think that's so cool that he listens to fans, unlike a certain video game company that we know, which will remain nameless. I love that. I really love that, Marvel pays attention, specifically Kevin Feige really does pay attention to that. And I had no idea, with Monica. Like, that's awesome that the same situation happened to her, because she is fantastic. She is a great Monica, so that's
She
awesome.
really is. You know, she just really fit the bill perfectly. And
Yeah.
you know, and then we got you know, Peggy Carter. You know, she came back to play Captain Carter, which was awesome. And then Anson Mount, who played Black Bolt in the Inhumans TV show that unfortunately was not very good, you know, and was pretty much critically panned. You know, audiences, critics just kind of really ripped that show apart. And you know, and I kind of thought that Marvel or the MCU would want to distance themselves from that project completely, but to see that actor brought back as Black Bolt in the film, you know, the characters that panics because he doesn't have a mouth anymore and literally blows his own brains out with the sound of his own voice. You know, to see that actor come back, I was really surprised. So, you know, it was nice, and I feel like overall the fact that Marvel even did that, be it a short little cameo sequence, you know, the fact that they even did that it just shows the capacity that they have to possibly do a lot more of that in the future, and have it be a lot more long term. You know, like, I guess I would consider that what they did in Multiverse of Madness with these cameos, kind of like testing the waters to see how people receive it. You know? And they'll probably go bigger next time. You know,
that makes sense. Yeah. No, that definitely makes sense. I think people, got caught on the name, you know, Multiverse of Madness, and revealing. I think my biggest issue with it, I'm definitely not one of those people that's like, oh, this movie sucked just because of the lack of cameos. No. Did I expect a little bit more? I did, only because, when Xavier was announced in the trailer, and again, just like you said, Josh, there was no getting around that people were going to, I know they didn't show his face, but they showed, like, the blurred, like, side of his face, which, of course, and, like, his voice is so iconic. Like you said, you can't disguise Patrick Stewart's voice. So
all you need to hear to know it's him. Hear his voice, see his bald head. You know it's Patrick Stewart.
Exactly.
That's like showing the back of Morgan Freeman's head and having him say something. It's like, we're gonna know it's Morgan fucking Freeman. You know,
That's true. There are some really, like, legendary, iconic actors that are not just known for their skills in acting, but their voices, and he is so one of them. Like, Patrick Stewart is so. He's just, you can't get, and I love that he's adorable. I love that he tried to troll everybody and be like, oh, but people have been imitating my voice for years. Like, before, I guess, Marvel was like, it's okay to say you're in it. Like, people know. Like, he was so cute. But I think the reveal kind of shot them in the foot there, though, because he arguably was the biggest cameo. Like, I know people loved the John Krasinski thing, and I know that, you know, all those other, I'm you know, I know that they were also really well received. Like, people, I've seen reactions online when they do reveal the Illuminati, everybody cheers for each character, and that's great. But obviously, he's probably the biggest, especially because it confirms the X-Men being able to come into the MCU now. It's amazing. Like, it's awesome.
They're finally on board, which is awesome.
Exactly. So, like, I feel like my whole thing was just like, I don't know. I guess I expected to maybe see more X-Men related things. I am so one of those fans that people probably hate when they're actual comic book fans, because I love Hugh Jackman. I know some people don't like his I think he's still really, I think the problem is it's kind of like, he's like, what you told me, Dylan, is a lot of people don't like him because A, he's not short and he doesn't really look like the character, whatever, that aside, but also because he did kind of steal the spotlight from a lot of other X-Men in the movies. I totally understand that part of it. And you compared it, Dylan, to put it in perspective for me, like, oh, remember when Leon was just getting all the attention in the Resident Evil games and, you know, our other characters got sidelined? It kind of felt that way. So, you know, I totally understand people's response to that, but I'm a huge fucking Hugh Jackman whore. I really love him as that character, and and because they brought Xavier back, I was like, oh, maybe Logan will pop up. Maybe I know Hugh Jackman said he's done with it after Logan, but, you know, so did Patrick Stewart. I was like, maybe he'll show up, and maybe we'll get, like, you know, maybe we'll see Magneto, because, you know, which would have been awesome because of Wanda and his connection in the comics and stuff. I do feel like I was one of those fans that was expecting a little bit more out of the cameos, but I'm not going to sit there and just trash the movie and think it's terrible. I mean, my main focus was to see Wanda's story continue as well. I do feel like we're throwing shade at Doctor Strange by not talking. I know you did in the beginning, Dylan, so we can circle back. And I think he's a fantastic character as well, and he was great in this movie, and Benedict Cumberbatch is always great.
He has some pretty awesome set pieces we could talk about later, like when he possesses his dead corpse and stuff like that.
Oh my god, that was dope. No, that was definitely awesome. And honestly, I don't really care how long this podcast runs. I'm going to be editing it, so whenever you guys have to go, that's fine. But I really am enjoying talking about it. But yeah, just to kind of wrap up on the cameo thing, and then Dylan, you can give your thoughts on the cameo stuff. I feel like for me, I personally was expecting a little bit more out of them, because why would you reveal the biggest cameo that you have, arguably the biggest cameo in Patrick Stewart, and then just there's really no, because when they revealed that, it was like, okay, well, who else is going to be it? Just like you said, Josh, like people were thinking that like, well, if he's in it, maybe there's a possibility of this person coming back, or or Ian McKellen, which would have been fucking awesome. I fucking love Ian McKellen. Talk about iconic actors. Him and Patrick Stewart are just amazing. So it's like, I just feel like I was expecting a little bit more, and I guess that's kind of where I'll leave it. So, So Dylan, what are your thoughts on the lack of cameos?
I do have stuff to add, and we talked about it a little bit, and it kind of goes back to the last Spider-Man movie. Again, I do think they shot themselves in the foot just with the marketing and getting people's expectations. Before I get to that, you mentioned Ian McKellen. I just have to quickly mention that adorable, cute story. I don't know if you saw this anywhere, Josh, but in an interview, somebody asked Elizabeth Olsen.
Oh yeah.
who, if using the multiverse, and if Magneto is revealed to be your father, somebody asked her, who would you want it to be? Would you want it to be Sir Ian McKellen, or would you want it to be Michael Fassbender? And first of all, in that interview that she does, her initial reaction, I just fucking love. She's asked that question, and she literally is just like, oh. Like, she loves it.
She is cute.
And then she ends up saying Sir Ian McKellen because she said she had a crush on him or something growing up. It's hilarious.
I did see that.
But then he responded on like his official Facebook or something to her saying that, and he said, "Oh, I'd love to be Elizabeth Olsen's daddy or something."
It's so cute. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, that is a possibility, with all this multiverse stuff. Like, it could happen,
Yeah. But I guess on the cameo stuff, what I was going to say is, I think because again, you hadn't seen that last Spider-Man movie, Brandy, yet, but I did tell you that the marketing campaign for that, I think, was better, because that also dealt with the multiverse, Spider-Man No Way Home, and I think their marketing campaign was a little smarter, because even though everyone knew, and I think you know this by now, Brandy, but even though everyone knew the other Spider-Men were in it, they never revealed them in the trailer, and even some of the other villains that came back, and everyone knew they were there, but everyone just denied it until it happened. So they didn't give that away in the trailer. In the trailers, all they did, they teased a couple villains coming back from the Sam Raimi movies. So that got people hyped, and then there was more to show up in the movie. Whereas, yes, in Multiverse of Madness, the ad campaign showed Patrick Stewart, so I think people thought a similar thing, where, oh, they're showing this. I wonder, like Brandy said, I wonder what else might come in just because of that marketing campaign for No Way Home. I think even Kevin Feige said that, like, he was a little upset with how much they gave away in all the trailers and stuff. Apparently he has no control over that with Multiverse of Madness, but yeah, I think it's a similar thing. I think the Spider-Man No Way Home trailers saved just enough to get people hyped, whereas this, and again, then people thought that Multiverse would be the same way. So I think that was part of the problem.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. When I saw No Way Home, I mean, I guess from the beginning, I kind of knew, I was like, okay, there's no way that we're getting Willem Dafoe, Alfred Molina as Green Goblin and Doc Ock, Jamie Foxx as Electro, and all these other villains. There's no way that we're getting them without Toby and Andrew, However, we at least, it was still kind of up in the air, because like they never revealed them in the trailer.
They never spoiled their entrances in the trailer.
Yeah.
So that was something to hype up.
Exactly, and they digitally removed them from scenes, like in the trailer. that we saw them in the final film. So I feel like maybe they should have done that with Multiverse of Madness. I remember because I remember when you and I spoke about the movie, you said that you were completely getting off of social media. You didn't want to be spoiled. You didn't want to see anything of it leading up to the movie's release. And you did the smart thing, because they started to get so reckless and ridiculous with the marketing for this movie leading up to May 6th when it dropped, because in just casual TV spots, like we see Wanda toss Captain Carter across the room, and we see like a back shot of her shield, which has the British flag and everything on it. And it's like, oh, well, you guys just confirmed that Captain Carter is in this movie, in just a casual TV spot. Why would you guys do that? It just, so they the marketing was just getting worse and worse. And
at a certain point, I watched a couple trailers and then some TV spots, but yes, at a certain point, even if I got suggested or recommended a new TV spot through YouTube or something, I immediately just again scrolled away, because at a certain point I was like, okay, yeah, I am seeing too much.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you did, because they spoiled a lot in those TV spots. So one thing that I would really like to talk about is kind of Scarlet Witch's entrance to the film.
Yes.
When it was brilliant, because Doctor Strange and Wong, they're talking, and they notice the runes on the creatures that are after America, and immediately he's like, oh, do you know of anyone who may have faced such exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and he's just like, oh, I think I may know somebody, and then we hear that ding, 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 that WandaVision jingle, and my theater actually clapped, when they heard that,
Yeah. Oh.
It was so good. And
I do have there's a funny story I told Brandy earlier, just on that moment, and I have a lot to say on that too, but I saw it with my brother today, who had not seen it yet.
Yeah. And
he's seen WandaVision, but none of the other Disney Plus shows, but he saw WandaVision, and I told Brandy, he immediately, was getting all hype as soon as they started talking about witchcraft and stuff like that, because he knew who they were talking about. And then he heard the theme, and then it went back. It kind of showed what maybe would have been an episode of that sitcom or whatever. It was just Wanda and her twins. And my brother was like, what are we doing back here? He was all confused. And then when Wanda wakes up, because she was dreaming about that other version of herself in another universe, my brother was like, he saw her just wake up and realize what it was. And he was like, oh, because I had seen it twice already. And he reacted like that. And then he said to me, how does she do this? How does she not just go crazy and kill everybody?
Just wait a little bit.
Yeah.
It's true, though. I mean, that was so sad, her waking up. And I love when the WandaVision jingle comes into it as well. I remember getting really hyped. Ed and I, my boyfriend, we were sitting next to each other, and he has also watched WandaVision with me, but I refreshed him and made him watch it with me a second time, right before we went and saw this. So, of course, when it came on, he leaned over and he was just like, oh my god, WandaVision. I was like, I know, and we got all hyped. And that jingle is actually my favorite, because I believe it's from the second episode, the 60s episode, where it's like, WandaVision. What? Yeah. I love that. That's my favorite theme, because it's so catchy. All the themes are great, by the way. Shout out to the WandaVision themes and the composers and people that did them. Amazing. But I really love that second one, so it was so cool. But when she just wakes up, I saw a viral video of audience reactions to things in Multiverse of Madness, and people were reacting to when she wakes up, and almost everybody, I'm sure it happened in my theater too, but I told Dylan this, maybe I'm just a deaf old lady, but my theater was so, the volume was so freaking loud. I was in a theater with a huge screen, which that's every theater, so yeah, but I was in a specific one where it was the sound was so goddamn loud in the best way possible. I loved it, but because it was so loud, but I really couldn't hear a lot of audience reactions. I know people clapped when Xavier came in and John Krasinski and all that, but I couldn't hear for other moments. I wasn't really sure, but I did see a viral video of when Wanda wakes up. The whole audience in this certain theater, I don't know where it was just all of them all at once was just like, Oh man, it's because it's so sad because she just,
Yeah.
she's so happy with her kids, and then she just wakes up and Wanda's fucking alone again, and it's just like, oh my god, this woman cannot catch a break, I swear.
Yeah, it was pretty tragic to witness that because they start that scene off so like just high energy between her and her boys, and
Yeah.
they're dipping their hand into the chocolate mix and stuff
I
like
know.
that, and she's like, go wash your hands, boys, and then like she's giggling, and then she wakes up just alone in the cottage in the woods.
And isn't it just silence when she wakes up? Like, there's the music and all the
Yeah.
cute jingles, but then when I loved that. I remember that. Yeah, just her waking up to, like, and the silence, like, makes it even more, I guess, like, poignant to me, because it's like she wakes up and there's just nobody around, like, nothing. Like, she just has nobody, and it's like, oh my god. So that opening, well, what did you guys think? Unless, Dylan, did you want to add anything to that opening scene, or, did you already go? I don't know. I'm horrible. I don't remember who all went yet.
No, not really anything to that scene. I told my brother's funny story, but I did want to make sure we talk about like the scene that followed directly after that.
Oh, that's what I was gonna. Oh, I was
With
getting
strange
there. I was
Yes.
gonna. Well, first of all, I know that the scene initially, like when she's like, I guess she's like clipping like the stuff off the I don't know what the hell she's doing, but she's in like they're in that like field of beautiful flowers and stuff, and then like when it's like I know we had seen that scene in the trailer. They had that scene, not the whole scene of course, but like them kind of talking about Westview and stuff. But like, what did you guys, unless you guys want to talk about anything before the scene drastically changes and switches, but like I'm really curious what you guys thought when like, yeah, like the red, like when she was like, oh, you didn't say her name, did you, about like America, and then it just like switched to like, I was like, dude, that is fucking dope.
One thing that I would like to say about before that transition is that her magic, like her power is so much superior than Doctor Strange's, which is something that a lot of fans will never accept and don't like to face. But the reality is that her power surpasses his, because he didn't even know that he was in a hex until she accidentally let it slip that that she knew her name,
Yeah, no,
And,
I love that. I just wanted to add quickly, just on that moment, I love that scene too, and I love just what you were saying, how powerful she is in that moment, holding up that hex, and he has no idea. I love when she says, the hex was the easy part. It was the lying that, tripped her up.
Yeah.
So, like, she can put up a hex all goddamn day and doesn't face it.
Exactly. Like that whole apple orchard field, like, it was gorgeous, and then all of a sudden it's just this barren. Yeah, and then all of a sudden just barren red wasteland of doom, and I'm just like, oh my god, like it's just like the analogy for like almost depression, if you really think about it, because
that's
like
true.
when you think about it, like you could be smiling and everything's good and happy-go-lucky, blah blah. That's what people see. That's what they think that they see. But the reality behind all that, you can go back home alone and you're just like fucking, super down on yourself and super depressed. So it was pretty cool to see her just wave her hand and show like, oh yeah, okay, like, that was just me pretending to be okay, but let me show you what's really going on here,
That's true. I never thought about it that way, that it could be taken as like a symbol, or like an analogy of her depression, because like, when it's just it's just nothing, or like like you said, barren wasteland. Because isn't it like, again, I've only seen the movie once and I saw it opening night, so that's like 2 weeks ago now, but when she does reveal that they're in that, isn't it like, it's like all red obviously, like all around them, but isn't it like the trees are just, they're just like dead trees with like nothing on them. And it kind of reminds me of what she says, and then Agatha repeats in WandaVision, just like, I guess like going from what you said, Josh, like the symbolism of it. Like, remember when she says like she just remembers feeling like endless nothingness or something like that. Like, that's such a good, profound way to describe grief and depression. I'm like, damn, that's deep. But like, I guess like, I never really thought about it as like a symbol. And again, only seen the movie once. I definitely want to rewatch it after this conversation. But I mean, that's a really cool way to look at it, is like, this is like a symbol of how she's feeling, and like, I guess maybe I never thought about it that way or didn't catch that the first time around, but that's a really interesting way to look at it because it really is like a reflection of how she's dealing with her shit, and it's like, damn, man, it's like, it's so sad.
Yeah, it really is. You know, just to see her like wave her hand and then that place turned into a barren wasteland. Even Strange, you know, was surprised, like, oh shit, like I was once the Sorcerer Supreme, like, and I could pull off anything like this. What the fuck, like, you know, and
That's
like
true.
she's just, yeah, they're having their little conversation and everything, and you know, and one thing that I would very much like to point out is that, like, you know, for all the people that, you know, just will not put that whole WandaVision, oh, she enslaved an entire town.
Oh,
to bed
yeah.
bullshit, you know, like even Doctor Strange walked in and was like, I'm not here to talk about Westview, okay?
Oh, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
You did what you did, you know, but you put things right in the end. That's what matters.
Yeah.
Like, if this dude, if friggin' Sorcerer Supreme or ex-Sorcerer Supreme is like, fuck those people in Westview, then I think the rest of the world should be like, fuck those
Calm
people in
down.
Westview.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, like, it's not the end of the world. Like, you know, even he didn't care. He was like, I'm not here to talk about Westview. Fuck Westview. You know, that happened like last year. Like,
I don't care
you
about
know,
and
and
art.
exactly, you know. Like, if anything, like, she gave that town a very much needed makeover.
That's very
you know,
true.
that's just like, but yeah, like, honestly, so it was really nice to see, like, you know, them kind of like just subtly just drop that in there just to kind of like shut those people up that will never stop bringing that whole she
That's a good-
enslaved an entire town. Like, she didn't kill anyone. Like,
I know.
you know, well, at least
I know.
yet, but you know, she didn't kill anyone. You know, so like they're all okay. Like, you know, it was an
They all
accident.
live.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like, you know, so yeah, but it was it like the conversation that followed after she revealed that it was a hex was really nice, and I think I was, you know, as somebody who's followed Wanda since Age of Ultron in the
Right.
in the MCU, you know, and just to gradually see her metamorphosis throughout all of these films, it like seeing her just toe to toe speaking to Doctor Strange in the way that she was,
Yeah.
it was like, whoa, like there's no doubt anymore. There's no like nervousness. There's no submissiveness. She just feels like she's in control. Like, she knows
Yeah.
who she is. Like, there's this like real power to not just like what she can do, but also in her presence and in her speaking, you know.
Yeah.
And Elizabeth Olsen really understood the assignment because, like, you know, he's saying like, oh, like, if that's just the justification, he's like, oh, you could forget the lunchbox if that's the because that's
Oh,
the
yeah.
kind of justification that our enemies use. And she's like, well, is it the kind of justification you use when you gave Thanos the time stone? You know, like,
yeah.
and she's just like
Throwing
and
shade for days.
yeah, you know, because like because like there is a bit of hypocrisy there, you know,
Yeah.
like, and she's definitely calling it out, you know, like,
Yeah.
albeit like she goes a little bit more of an extreme route, like,
Yeah.
she's still calling out the blatant hypocrisy in his methods and his ways, and it was really nice to see somebody kind of humble this dude and be like, bro, shut up, okay, like, you talk too much, like, you know, like, I'm tired of, like, hand over the kid and nobody gets fucking hurt, you know, like, it was just really like, just nice to see her shut like Doctor Strange up, because like, as much as I love him, like, he is very arrogant and he is very
That's
kind of like
Yeah.
cocky, and you know, and he's just always right, you know, and she's just like, no, you know,
Wanda-
so
Want to put
so
him
yeah,
in-
she put him in his place, you know, and like, you know, just to kind of like really highlight like how arrogant he can be, you know, like, that's another reason why in Infinity War, him and Tony Stark, Iron Man, they were constantly bucking heads because they were both very
They're both
arrogant.
cocky assholes.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean that in the best way. I love both characters. I don't want people to be like, oh my god, I do. And I think that Tony definitely redeems himself. I think even Doctor Strange has a lot of redeeming moments, in his first movie and everything. So I'm not saying I hate their characters, but yeah, they're both pretty cocky. And that's like their whole thing, though, is they're supposed to be. So
Right.
I definitely understand what you're saying. And to see Wanda be so confident in, like, her abilities now, because we talked about it earlier, but even her saying in WandaVision, like, I don't understand this power, but I will, or whatever the exact line is.
Yeah.
I love that, because in this one, and Dylan, you can totally go in a second. I know we're kind of going off on this scene, but I know you'll have things to add because the scene is amazing. But it is really cool to see her fully realize her powers and just be the confident Scarlet Witch. I mean, even you just saying that, Josh, I'm really thinking about it now when I reflect on that scene and what I saw. It is really cool to see her completely in control and very confident, because, in WandaVision, she had just learned, who she was and what the Scarlet Witch meant. And now it's like, she's just like, hey, bitch, I know what I'm doing now, and I know what I want, and, like, I want to get what I want. And, like, whether she's going about it in the best fashion can be questioned, I guess, but, like, she knows. And yeah, it's just amazing to see. And Elizabeth Olsen killed it. She always kills it. She does the emotional crying stuff so well. She does the power stuff so well. She does the evil Wanda. Like, she can play literally anything. Her range is just phenomenal. We talked about, like, the sitcom stuff, the fact that she had to play, a 50s housewife, and then, a 70s, chicken, like, going through all of that. Like, she's just so good. And her in this movie blew me away. Dylan, you talked about that too, that, like, her acting's always amazing. So of course, and we're all fans of her, so we might be biased, but, like, no, her as an actress, there should be no question. Like, she has range, like, just out of this world. So that scene's amazing.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
literally what you were just saying too about, like, there was a couple lines in that scene that I did want to mention. But, like, just her range, just thinking about the fact that she played this adorable, bubbly 50s housewife, and then she's fucking terrifying in this movie.
It's so true. That's ranged.
I mentioned this to you, Brandy, because it's always a line that we chuckle on in WandaVision, but it was the first thing that immediately popped in my head when she does say to Steven about, the hex was the easy part. I said to you, I think it was after we saw it the first time, and immediately what popped in my head when she said that, I was like, Brandy, did she ever call it the hex in WandaVision? I don't think she does herself. I think Agatha does and Darcy does, but when she said the hex was the easy part, again, immediately, Darcy just popped in my head. Yeah, you called it the hex.
Oh yeah, I love it. Yeah, because doesn't she
Somebody's
say
gonna
that to
make that
Monica?
into a meme.
Yeah, I love that. You called it the hex. She's all proud that she deems it the hex. Yeah, I love that.
But then there was a pretty deep line too in that scene, which goes to what you two were talking about with, like, what her putting up the hex in this scene and then taking it down represents. She has a line, and I'm trying to remember the exact words, but I don't remember what Steven says to her, but her reply to him is very dark and also kind of sad and fucked up when you think about WandaVision. She says something to him in that scene like, I know better than most what self-deception looks like. So literally, her fooling herself at the beginning of WandaVision is just such a dark, fucked up thing to think about.
For her to acknowledge it, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I didn't remember that till you said it, but wow. She's such a tragic character all around. It's just sad, but I mean, I think that's what makes her compelling and what draws me to her. But yeah, no, I didn't remember that till you just said that. Wow, that's interesting to think about from her perspective of it, of being in denial in the beginning of WandaVision, not really know what was going on, but then her acknowledging that. That's wow.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the scene that gave me, like, literal chills, like actual goosebumps, was shortly after that, when she explains the terms, and she's telling them, she's like, hand over America Chavez by sundown. And you'll never see me again. And then he's like, well, what if we don't? And then she's like, well, then it won't be Wanda who comes for her.
That's one of the best lines.
Scarlet Witch, and I was like, holy shit, like, she's calling herself the Scarlet Witch,
Yeah.
But the scene that gave me chills was, when she finally gets to Kamar-Taj, and they're having their little discussion back and forth, and he says, oh, I don't think that what you're saying constitutes as reasonable, and she responds with, sending those creatures after her instead of myself was mercy, which is like the biggest like big dick energy thing you could possibly say, because it's like, do you see what those monsters look like? You know, like one is Shumagorath, clearly Shumagorath from the comics, which is like a giant octopus with a huge eye. You know, there were some horrifying creatures, and then like the one in the beginning that's like kind of made of ribbons and stuff like that, you know, that like killed Defender Strange and stuff. You know, those are some really horrifying creatures. So for her to say that sending those things after America instead of herself was mercy, that means that she's going to fuck every single one of you guys up here. Okay? like that means just hand over the girl, okay? Like, because those things are nothing in comparison to what she's about to do, you guys. And she literally followed through on her promise, you know?
Yeah.
And she continued with her, like, her speech, you know, saying, you know, but I do hope you understand that even now, what's about to happen, this is me being reasonable, you know, like, because she does hold back. I mean, that much is pretty obvious, you know, like, there's so many times that she could have killed Strange, you know, but she literally always just chooses to kind of like yeet him out of the way and try and take America, you know, and yeah, you know, everybody that she kills in this movie, it seems like they were just, like they were very hostile towards her and were in her way. It didn't seem like she genuinely was like targeting these people to be like, yeah, fuck you, I like killing people kind of thing. It was more of like a, all right, you're in the way and you're kind of annoying, so I'm gonna just like get rid of you kind of thing. Yeah. You know, and yeah, it you know, like those people at Kamar-Taj, they were shooting fucking cannons and arrows at her, you know, she just, it's like, all right, well, you guys gotta go, you know, like, because like, and it's that simple, you know, like, but yeah, like, was there any part during that Kamar-Taj scene for any of you guys that just like really stood out?
Well, I hope that, I'm sure one of you guys or even both of you probably remember, because we cannot do this podcast without me mentioning this line, because it literally, we talked about the line earlier, you guys probably even may know what I'm going to say. It's my favorite line in the entire movie, and it actually did bring tears to my eyes when she said it, and I can't remember if she says it in the first scene with Strange or with the other, the one we were just talking about, but it's when she says...
This one, it's when she comes to Kamar-Taj.
Oh, perfect. Then I'm actually on the right track for once. But it's and I have the picture you sent me earlier, Dylan, with the full quote up, so I'm just gonna read it. But it's so like, oh god, I just love it. But it's I blew a hole through the head of the man that I loved, and it meant nothing. Do not speak to me of sacrifice, Stephen Strange. And it's just like, even just saying it, I just got chills and like almost like a lump in my throat, because it's literally like she did. And it literally was for nothing. And it puts into perspective the entire character of Wanda. It puts into perspective why WandaVision happened. It even puts into perspective what she's doing now. Like, that's why, and even though we did say earlier that there's really no mention of Vision, especially later on, and we kind of are like, kind of bummed about that. Her saying that, oh my god, oh my god, it still gets to, like, it's a beautifully profound fucking line, for real.
Really, no, I think the more I think about it, that's probably my favorite line in the movie, too.
What's up, Josh?
It's just so...
I was just going to say, like, really quickly, like, that line, like, you know, not only does it hit, like, really fucking hard, but, like, also the fact that she said that, you know, she's never really talked about, like, how that felt to watch him die twice. Mm-hmm. So, like, she was sitting on that thought for years after, like, Infinity War, you know, so for her to finally say it, to, like, really, like, you know, highlight, like, yo, like, you don't know shit about sacrifice, dude.
Exactly.
Like, I had to, you know, I had to kill the love of my life, and that it meant nothing because I had to watch him die again, and it was just, like, it was just, oh my god, like, hearing her say that was, like, the ultimate, like, dude.
Oh, I got goosebumps all over. Yeah, exactly. And of course, Elizabeth Olsen, again, to talk about her acting, she delivered it so fucking amazingly that, like, I literally got goosebumps throughout my body, and I do remember getting, like, a swell of tears in my eyes when she said it, because it just, like, I mean, I'm such a Wanda and Vision fan anyway, them as a couple, and I loved Wanda. I mean, it just really, and her putting it in that type of, I mean, she's so, like, just blunt and honest with it too. Like, I blew like the way that she words it is just like she wants Strange to feel like it, because she could have just said like, I had to kill the man that I love. No, she says I blew a hole. Like that to me is just so like, oh God, because she's really saying, you know, she's putting the details in there and she wants him to know. And it's just like, oh my God, it really, it just gets me. Sorry, Dylan. I know you were also talking about it because I know you love it too, but it kind of encapsulates.
Hits you right in your core, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
It's just such a well-written line.
Mm-hmm.
You know, after you know, she tries to get to them, and she almost succeeds in getting America's powers, but Doctor Strange tackles her through, like, you know, the star-shaped portals that she can make, and you know, they start going through all these different universes, and then they end up in the 838 universe. You know, where there they get to speak to Baron Mordo in that particular sequence. And he's revealing to them about dreamwalking, and what Scarlet Witch can do with the Darkhold, which is possess like an alternate universe version of herself. You know, that particular scene was probably like, I may sound biased, but it was probably the coolest, if not one of the coolest fucking things in the Marvel Cinematic Universe ever, because of Sam Raimi's transitions and his transitions accompanied with Danny Elfman's score in that particular scene. While
Yes, thank you for saying that. Oh my God, Danny Elfman, shout out, love him.
Right? Like, he's explaining to America and Strange, you know, about dreamwalking and in the background you see the Scarlet Witch like opening the Darkhold, and then she like starts, you know, meditating and everything, and this music that Danny Elfman is fucking playing, it was like nothing I've ever heard in the, you know, because I'm so used to the, you know, generic orchestral, you know, upbeat kind of like music for most MCU films, you know, and all that stuff, whatever. But this was channeling some fucking like 90s The Craft grunge kind of like, you know, just like some real witchy vibes that was
I
just
remember
like,
that,
whoa.
yes. I loved it. I loved it.
Stuck out.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I really do want to say, like, before we do get to the end of the podcast, I want to shout out Danny Elfman, because I already loved him as a composer anyway. He's amazing, but I love that you mentioned that, because Sam Raimi's directing and the way he shoots things, like mixed with the amazing talent of Danny Elfman. Oh my God, it's like a match made in heaven. It was, and I remember a lot of the score music in this like stood out. Like, it wasn't just like you said, it wasn't just like, I don't know, like, I don't want to say that all MCU movies are the same in that, but like, it didn't just feel like hero music that's just kind of in the background and there. It really like was kind of its own character in a way. I really feel like when that soundtrack comes out, or maybe it already is out, I need to get that shit on Apple Music, because it was that good. I really, really liked it. So I'm so glad you brought that up, Josh. Thank you, because I actually meant to say something about that, and just kind of completely forgot, because we're just so focused on all the character stuff. But yes, Danny Elfman's music, and I know what part of the soundtrack you're talking about, and I was like, whoa, this is like really different and like mind-blowing in the best way. I was like, oh my God, so I totally get it.
Absolutely. You know, just for future reference, the track, it's called A Cup of Tea by Danny Elfman from the soundtrack, so you can just go and listen to that, you know, just to refresh yourself, because like, as soon as I got out of that...
Is it available? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you up, but is it available on like Apple? Like, if I were to download like the whole soundtrack for Multiverse, I guess I can look it up, but I'm curious.
Yeah, I believe the whole thing's out already.
Okay, cool.
Like, the whole soundtrack,
That's awesome.
So it's called A Cup of Tea, and as soon as I got out of that theater, like, I told my friend, I was like, yo, that fucking song when Scarlet Witch was meditating, holy shit.
I just found it. It has a star, so I don't know if you guys have Apple Music or if you're familiar with how it works, but it has a star next to it. It's track 11 on the soundtrack, and it has a star next to it. If it has a star, that means it's one of the most played ones from the album, so that's awesome. So it's definitely popular.
Yeah, for sure. You know, like, that song, you know, like, it's just everything with Sam Raimi's directing in that particular scene and everything.
Yeah.
And just the transitions, it was like definitely giving like early 2000s movies vibes and everything. And it was just like a really brilliant and different style
Yeah.
that we've never gotten in the MCU before, and I was so refreshed to see that, you know, my favorite character, the Scarlet Witch, was getting that kind of treatment, you know, because like Dylan will tell you, like, you know, us being comic book nerds since we were kids and growing up, and you know, one of his characters also being the Scarlet Witch, like one of his favorites.
Yeah.
You know, like we were just like fucking crumbs. Like we were just pecking at crumbs growing up because like all of these superhero movies, all these Marvel movies that would come out, you know, Wanda would never be.
And you're just hoping,
like,
that she would be,
Exactly. You know, like she'd never be included in any of these films, any of these, like, you know, any of these X-Men movies, none of them, you know. And I mean, her brother made the cut before she did, and she never like was in any of those X-Men movies. So like to see her get this level of spotlight and just, you know, just public love from like fans worldwide, like I honestly I could, you know, I never thought that in any reality that I would see, you know, I would look at videos of like, oh, like, you know, those Disneyland videos, like those resorts where like all the kids go and, you know, even adults and stuff like that or whatever. And I never thought that I would see like a young girl, like a child, like dressed up as the Scarlet Witch. You know, like I always expected to see like Supergirl or like, you know, other like very Wonder Woman, you know, like very more kind of like popular, you know, characters. But for Scarlet Witch to become this popular, now little girls are dressing up as her. Yeah, it's like, you know, it's so crazy to see. It's like, well, shit, you know, times are changing, but like in a good way, you know, because like, you know, she's become so popular now, and I feel like she's slowly creeping up there to become the like Marvel Wonder Woman, because everybody knows Wonder Woman, whether you know DC or Marvel, but like, but Scarlet Witch is becoming so popular that I feel like people will know her before they know like any other like Marvel female superhero or something like that.
No, I can. I mean, I know that Black Widow has her fans. I like Black Widow. I know that even Captain Marvel, to a certain degree, might have fans. I know a lot of people feel one way or the other about Brie Larson and Captain Marvel, which is fine. But I do think, in terms of like, I don't know. Again, I guess it was WandaVision that really skyrocketed her popularity. But it's awesome. And I mean, I can't speak on the comic book thing. So Dylan, you could probably add to this. Like, I wasn't a comic book fan. I didn't even know, shamefully, who the Scarlet Witch was until Dylan told me. And then when I watched Age of Ultron, I totally got why Dylan liked her, but it didn't really fully hit me like in the feels and stuff until obviously WandaVision. So even me, as a newer fan coming onto this, I can say that WandaVision is solely the thing that got me really into this whole world, and like it got me like not only just interested in Wanda story in general, but like it got me to be like, oh my god, I really got to give other, you know, MCU movies a chance, because if this is so deep and profound, like this whole story of WandaVision, like I gotta watch all this other, you know, it really was like my gateway into everything. Even though I had seen Marvel movies prior, like I said, with my sister, and I'd watched and I thought that they were all really great, WandaVision was just like the gut punch that I needed to sort of be like, dude, the writing in this is amazing, the acting in this stuff is amazing, you have to like you have to be more open-minded and give this stuff a chance. And I was like, okay, I really do need to do that, because again, my knowledge of, I just thought Marvel movies were, and this is going to sound so shallow, but this is really what I thought. It was just people in capes and spandex running around and being super buff, like you know, Chris Hemsworth, and like looking hot, and just that was it. And there was no, and fighting crime and that kind of thing. And it sounds like such like a, I don't know, I guess 1960s superhero like mentality. Like I didn't feel like there was any layers to these characters, and I was definitely proven wrong. So I'm happy about that. But yeah, I'm glad for you guys being fans, as long as you guys were, that you're finally getting your favorite character to be recognized more. But even from my own perspective of it, I mean, because it is sad. She was always kind of given like something in the movies, but when she was introduced in Age of Ultron, and she was in a couple movies, but it was like a very small corner of it, I think is the way Dylan always worded it, like a corner of each movie. Like she had her moments, but like, and even though her and Vision started out as a couple in the movies before WandaVision, I love that they had the time in WandaVision to build, because I feel like some people may have been like, oh, like I mean, unless they're comic book fans and knew they were together, like maybe they felt like their relationship was rushed, because we never got the full moments of their of them dating dating and being a couple, and her realizing that he was there for her after Pietro died, and like it just like, so I don't know, and I'm a romance whore. Wanda and Vision, they're my OTP, so I love them. But anyway, Dylan, do you have anything to add? Like, of course, I'm sure you have something to add about being hyped that Wanda's finally getting, you know, the recognition and love she deserves, specifically, like you always say, Elizabeth Olsen getting that recognition as well, because she's such a phenomenal actress.
It makes me so happy that her popularity did blow up from WandaVision, but also that, yes, that she has been written so phenomenally,
Yeah.
and cast so goddamn well. Because, you know, I love her from the X-Men comics and all the stuff that she has to do with mutants and whatnot. So, you know, it could have been the case where she was adapted poorly, but the fact that that has not been the case, and she's just been fucking phenomenal, is amazing. I did want to add to the dreamwalking scene. I fucking love that sequence too. But then I also love when she does step in to the body of the other Wanda. And like you can see that Wanda's kind of fighting it, and she can tell something's happening. We gotta mention the fucking scene where our Wanda gets inside the body of that Wanda, and literally she just turns her head and looks straight at the camera. Like, that was fucking chilling.
Yes, all the moments like that were so. Oh, I told you I love the horror stuff, and I kind of forgot about that, but you reminding me of it. Oh, it is chilling is the best word to describe it. The way that Elizabeth Olsen plays the horror elements of Wanda, it's just so perfect.
Yeah.
After that dreamwalking sequence, I'm trying to remember. After the dreamwalking sequence, it kind of goes toward the Illuminati scene. So I guess we can talk about how they all got their asses handed, you know, because, you know, fucking, like, Reed Richards got turned into Linguini, and his head popped like a fucking grape. And,
Linguini.
like,
It's true, though.
you know, I know that since... I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just want to mention, because you're mentioning Reed, there's a line, too, that Wanda says to him. Wanda's going to fucking kill you, but she's a mother. She literally checks and makes sure. Is their mother still alive before I fucking kill you? Because I don't want to leave those kids orphans.
Yeah. When she said that in the theater, people were like, "Oh shit!" Like you hear my theater go, "Oh!" Like they audibly were like reacting to that. She was just like, "Wanda, I have children. I understand your pain." And she's like, "Is their mother still around?" And he's like, "Yes." And she's like,
Oh my god.
"Good. There'll be someone left to raise them." Like, and everybody was like, "Oh shit," you know, like, and then this dude is like, "Wanda, Black Bolt can destroy you with one whisper from his mouth." And she's like, "What mouth?" Like, this dude, like, what kills me is like the camera panning towards him. He looks all smug, like, "Yeah, I'm totally gonna blow this bitch away," you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then immediately, like, the camera pans out, and, like, he doesn't have a mouth anymore. And he starts panicking. Like, it's just like, what the fuck? This dude, like, you have to really get into the psychology of that. Because, like, this dude who spent his entire life, I guess, like, doing sign language, because he knows that if he even, like, you know, sneezes or something like that, like, it'll fucking just, like, put, like, a crater in the earth. You know, like, he's probably just used to having so much power. So, like, for his big secret weapon to be just stripped away from him like that, like he just fucking panics. Like, he immediately panics, and his first order of business is to, like, try and rip his lips apart by screaming, but it backfires because, like, it's like the equivalent of, like, I guess, shooting yourself in the chin with a shotgun, because that's what it looked like. Like, this dude's, like, skull just, like, blew out, then caved in, and, like, I was not expecting that for a moment.
Yeah. That's pretty... Well, what is... I know I'm going to sound super, like, ignorant with my knowledge of certain characters. So, what was... He's obviously from the comics, but is he, like... Is he just, like, his own character with his own comics, or is he, like, an X-Men, or, like, what is that character? Because I enjoyed the scene, and the way that he died I thought was really creative, but I wasn't aware of, like, who exactly he was, or, you know. the context.
Yeah, he's part of this this group. You know, you have the Avengers, you have the X-Men. You know, but this group that he's a part of, they're called the Inhumans. You know,
Oh, okay.
and yeah, they're kind of like a different group, which they ended up getting their own show, but again, they're terrible. So they kind of just like pumped the brakes on that, but still somehow, you know, by the grace of Zeus, decided to bring that actor back to play the character that he played in the show.
Oh, yeah, you said that earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, so when they did that, you know, like, yeah, so he's an Inhuman, and it's just kind of like, you know, it's like, I'm not trying to downplay what they are, you know.
Right.
It's just more people with powers, you know, like,
Gotcha,
basically what
okay.
it is. So,
Gotcha.
like, it's nothing, like, different or mega, like, oh my god, this is so new, you know, it's just more people with powers. So, you know, basically his power is that he you know, even if he even whispers, like, that's like a death sentence to somebody, you know, like, they're gonna get obliterated, like, yeah, so he can't even, like, whistle or open his mouth or just, like, you know, nothing, you know. So yeah, he like, you know, maybe he could have, like, destroyed Wanda, you know, but the fact that she just looked at his mouth and took it away with the sheer will of her mind.
Damn,
like,
she's so powerful. I know.
Right, while she was remote controlling an alternate version of herself, by the way, you know,
Yeah.
like, it wasn't like our Scarlet Witch was facing him, because if she were, then
Yeah.
he probably wouldn't even be standing there, like, smirking before she took his mouth away, you know, but, like, this dude was smirking, and he was like, oh yeah, like, I'm gonna blow this bitch away, like, you know, and then offs himself, you know, and then immediately, you know, Reed Richards sees that and, like, oh my god, like, tries to jump in, gets turned into Linguini. You know, Captain Carter and Maria Rambeau are back there chilling, watching these dudes get fucking wrecked. And then that's when they decide, all right, why don't we get involved here? And it's like, what? Really? Like, that's when you get involved? You know, like, okay. So yeah, just to see, like, Wanda go up against literally the entire Illuminati and just
And
completely
wreck
demolish
shop
them.
so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It was so mind blowing, you know, and just to hear the audible reactions in my theater, you know, like, Wanda and Captain Carter, they're going at it, and, you know, she's like, haven't you had enough? And then Captain Carter's like, oh, I can do this all day, you know, and, like, yeah, and then my theater, like, clapped at that part because it's such, like, an iconic callback to Captain America, so they were, like, really excited, but the excitement was short-lived because after she threw her frisbee at Wanda threw it right back at her and cut her in half. And, like, everybody just kind of, like, gasped. Like, they were just so shocked by that. You know, I obviously, knowing Wanda and what she's capable of, wasn't really surprised. But yeah, it was a pretty awesome fight, you know, that whole Illuminati sequence. And I know that this is a Doctor Strange movie, you know, and I don't mean to, like, shit on him, because I do like Doctor Strange as a character, but, you know, as she was fighting the Illuminati, it was constantly switching between her fighting the Illuminati and Doctor Strange with his handcuffs fighting Baron Mordo, and I was just like, okay, fuck that. Can we go back to the Illuminati and Wanda kicking their ass? Like, you know, like, I don't care about Baron Mordo and this dude fighting right now. Like, I want to see her kill people. Like, come on. You know?
I kind of felt that too. I remember that being in my head when, because again, I really like Doctor Strange as a character as well, and I know that it's a Marvel movie. There's going to be plenty of fight sequences and stuff, and that's fine. So while that, I know that was going on simultaneously with the Illuminati fight, but I felt the same way. I was just like, I kind of just want to stay on, like, with Wanda. Yeah, so I felt the same way. I mean, and I, again, love Doctor Strange, so no shit. I think he's a really great character, but and I think you said it earlier, Josh, and Dylan and I've talked about it before, like, the magic part of the MCU is, like, really, like, that's, like, the really appealing part for me. I know, Dylan, you always say that that's, like, your favorite kind of part of it, so, like, Doctor Strange fits in with that, so I definitely love his character, but I felt the same way during the Illuminati fight. I just wanted to keep seeing her just fucking wreck shop, like, all in a row. It was like, damn, girl, you are fucking not playing. And she was not playing in that scene at all, and it was like, and Dylan, you can probably talk more about it because you know those members of the Illuminati too better than I do, obviously, because I'm not a comic book fan. I know you told me a lot about each of them, and I knew what the Illuminati was because, again, Dylan, you're literally like my encyclopedia of comic book knowledge. So I was aware of who they were, but I mean, I guess I don't have much to say on it because the impact, I guess, wasn't as profound for me but I mean, obviously Wanda going in and just killing all these extremely powerful people, and I knew that each of them, especially again with Xavier, because I like X-Men and I knew who he was, but I know we already talked about that, but like even just seeing her just take on them one by one and just pick them off, and nobody was able to just fucking stop her at all. That was I was like, damn, girl. So I guess that's the extent of
give
what
her
I
the child. Like, just give her the child. Like,
just give her what she wants.
Following the Illuminati scene, we get to her finally reaching Mount Wundagore and learning that it's her throne. You know, it's not like it's not a tomb, it's her throne, and you know, and those like demon things. Which, by the way, I felt so gypped. You know, because I was like, holy shit, she has like these like demon servants that like protect her, but they were just taken out so quickly, and I was like, I at least wanted to see them fight, you know? Like,
I know, they didn't really do anything. I think I think one of them successfully threw a rock down at Wong. That's all that they did.
like, God, like, some servants you are, shit. Like, I'll do it myself, you know?
I do have to bring up, and I joke with it since you brought up that scene. I joke with Brandy all the time. Again, I tell her things here and there, you know, things I do know about certain comics. When I heard Mount Wundagore, that got me a little hyped because I know that's a big part of Wanda's backstory in the comics and whatnot. I always joke with Brandy, and I'm just like, I want this to become MCU canon so badly because it's just dumb comic stuff. I always joke because I think in the comics she was raised on Mount Wundagore or something like that, and I always joke with Brandy. Literally, her and Pietro were raised by a cow. Bulba.
Oh yeah.
Talking cow. I want to have a flashback scene. De-age Elizabeth Olsen, have her be a teenager, and she's just being raised by a cow. That's hilarious to me. If they can make Rocket Raccoon work, they can make Bulba work.
That's so dumb though.
Oh my God.
It's like Wanda's story's so deep and sad and emotional, and then she's just raised by a cow in the fucking comics. Like, what the fuck?
I know, right?
The comics definitely.
Like,
I know you said that in general,
weird.
Dylan. Like, comics are weird like that, but it's like they definitely do some weird shit in the comics sometimes.
Yeah. It's true, you know. I mean, that final fight, you know, Doctor Strange, he possesses his dead body, and dreamwalks, and which was, you know, I'll admit, was a pretty fucking cool scene to see him take those like ghostly demons and, you know, use them as wings or a cape to like fly across to Mount Wundagore and like ensue in the final battle. But you know, when Wanda sees that he's dreamwalking, she rightfully refers to him as a hypocrite, you know, and starts fighting him, you know, because he was condemning her for doing the same thing. So now he's dreamwalking and using a fucking corpse to do it. But yeah, it was a pretty awesome scene to see them fight. Ultimately, when America realizes and even says, like, I can't beat you, so I'll give you what you want. And she punches a hole like into the reality of, you know, Wanda 838, and you see the kids like in the living room, and you know, and they really kind of like like they started altering with Wanda toward the end of the movie to make her look even more unhinged, because I don't remember her looking like that in the beginning, you know, with like the dark circles under her eyes and like her hair like all messy and everything. And, you know, so when she finally does see her kids, you know, like, and they're rightfully terrified of her because she's like choking this teenager in their living room all of a sudden, and they run for their mom, and she like yeets their mom across the room, you know. I think and then they take their toys and start launching them.
Oh yeah.
They start launching their toys at her. Get away from our mom! Like, stop it, please! Like, stop it! Like,
Oh,
and he
yeah.
yells at them.
I told.
And, like,
I don't know if you. I love that whole scene, and that moment's great. But I don't know if you heard that or saw the interview. But I've told Brandy before that Elizabeth Olsen said that moment was a legitimate reaction.
yeah,
They were throwing shit at her, and one of them accidentally hit her in the head or something with something.
yeah, it was like a
That was
toy
their
truck or
legit
something
reaction,
like that.
and then she felt, and then she said she felt so bad because she just used that reaction, but she scared the crap out of the kids. Like,
Oh.
I mean, but that's a true actress right there, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure that after she did it, she, like, immediately went and hugged them and said, I'm so sorry, boys, you know? Like,
Oh.
you guys hit me in the head with a fucking scooter, you know? So that was, like, my natural reaction. Like, you know, and Jet Klein, the one who plays Tommy, like, I think I remember seeing, like, a video or, like, a GIF on Twitter where they had legitimately slowed down the footage of them throwing things at her, and you see that, like, you know, he picks up something really big. I think it was like a whole scooter that he picked up and just like yeets at her, you know. And in the interview, like, you know, apparently Sam Raimi had told the kids, like, just pick up shit and just start throwing at her. Just start, like, pick up whatever you can find and just start throwing it at Lizzie, you know, and like they that's exactly what they did. So, you know, I guess that scooter like clocked her in the fucking nose or something, and she, stop it, like, you know,
Clocked her in the nose.
and those poor kids were terrified. Like, you see Tommy like cover his mouth, like as if he's like almost about to break character, you know, and like immediately runs behind the stairs. You know, it's just, oh my god, it's so good. Like, oh man.
I do love that that scene too. That it literally is on a more serious note. That is hilarious. But that at the end, like, nobody can stop Wanda but Wanda. So it had to come from the other Wanda telling her that you know her children would be loved and all that, to get her to stop and to get her to, you know, make the right decision, and she destroys the castle, which destroys the Darkhold in the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a really, like, really powerful scene, you know, like, and yeah, you're absolutely right, you know, like, nobody else was able to stop Wanda but Wanda. Like, you know, they kept trying to stop her, they kept trying to fight her, like, just take the L, you know, like, you're not gonna stop this woman. Like, she's way too powerful. So to see that, like, she literally had to stop herself, that was huge. And you know, I know that some people are saying, but Wanda's dead. Like, are you kidding me? Like, you think that, like, after WandaVision, after that show literally
Exactly.
like put, like, Wanda on the map and made her like the MCU's most popular female character, like, bar none. You think they're just gonna stop her there by getting squished in some fucking, like, mountain? Like, no. Like, you know, she, like, that is not how her story ends. You know, there's so much more that will be told with her. And, you know, we still got White Vision out there, you know. Eventually, her kids will make it to this universe, to Earth 616, because they have to, you know, because they have to be part of the Young Avengers. That's another comic book.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't know if you... No, just quickly on the kids, I don't know if you noticed, but I noticed it having, you know, when I saw it again today, that obviously that has to happen with her kids. But I even noticed in the Darkhold Castle, not only was there, like, the statue or wall of Wanda or whatever, but when they pan past the wall at some point, there's also, like, a statue of, I think, Billy in his comic book costume, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome. I'll definitely have to keep an eye out for that, you know? Like,
I think it's when she first gets there with Wong and they're first walking in, and when the camera keeps swooping across, like, the walls, you see a statue of Billy.
That's a pretty cool Easter egg. Like,
yeah.
You know, it should be, like, if anything, like, you know, they'll probably adapt the whole like, Children's Crusade comic story where, you know, her boys like end up looking for her, and like because they were long considered dead, but they were reincarnated, and eventually they kind of start looking for their mama, and at the end of the series, like they find her, and yeah, so I feel like that's probably what's gonna happen. If anything, they're probably gonna give Wanda just a little hiatus from the MCU, and it's probably gonna be like a very little hiatus, because like they don't want to keep her out of the game for too long because they know that this woman is a fucking powerhouse. Like, she literally, every single review for Multiverse of Madness, whether you loved it or you hate it, they're all talking about Elizabeth Olsen's performance as the Scarlet Witch.
That's
they're
true.
all praising it. They're all just like, okay, holy shit, like she really brought it in this movie, and it's something that we all knew that she was capable of, but she's always constantly showing us different shades of Wanda, that we never expect to see, and it's always exciting, so it was surprising to see her go more dark and scarier this time around.
Yeah.
And more confident, because before she was always crippled by something, or
I feel like it's that
said,
confidence that makes her kind of scary, though. It's like she's so confident and she knows who the Scarlet Witch is now. She knows the extent of her power and she's going to fucking use it to get what she wants. And that makes her so interesting and just also so scary at the same time. She's so scary in this movie. But again, like, I don't know. And I am glad that we are talking about, like, the ending, I guess, like, to sort of end on it. I do have one other question I wanted to ask you guys before we fully wrap up, but I guess on the ending, I agree with you, Josh, with everything that you said, that she's definitely not dead. I know people in my theater were really pissed. I was kind of pissed that we didn't get, like, one last moment with her, or like an end credit scene where like maybe it touched on like her fate, I guess, but I guess maybe they want it to be ambiguous, or they want you to think maybe she's dead. But I know Elizabeth Olsen, wasn't there a thing too where she just signed like another 5-year contract, or maybe even longer? I don't know what the amount was, but like with Marvel, so it's like she's definitely gonna probably hopefully get her own movie too, like a solo movie. With as big as WandaVision was, and like you said, her blowing up in popularity, I'm hoping that that's a possibility. White Vision is still out there somewhere, so whether they end up doing something with him that involves Wanda or not, I hope that I hope that it involves Wanda, because I feel like, Vision's a great enough character to stand on his own and do his own thing, but I really want them to obviously reunite somehow, some way, maybe. But I really don't think that this is the end of Wanda, obviously. That would just be ridiculous. Some people really are pissed about it and think that, and I'm like, dude, don't be dumb.
You can't crush my world and bring the X-Men on the board and then take her out.
Exactly.
I think one thing that I will say is that, I would hope that Marvel, Kevin Feige in the MCU, I would hope that they learned this time around, because, like, Black Widow, she's been with the MCU since 2008, Iron Man 2, and they finally gave her a solo movie after
it's been a
she
while.
died.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you give her a solo after she's dead? So let's not do that with Wanda. Let's bring her back alive and then give her a solo movie, because that people will fucking show up at the theaters with their Scarlet Witch crowns, ready to check it out. Like they will be there in droves. So they really need to capitalize off of the popularity of the Scarlet Witch and give her own solo movie. Like, bring back Danny Elfman, bring back fucking Sam Raimi. Like, give me some more of that 90s goth grunge witchy like soundtrack. I will take that. And it's like it would be awesome. So I just hope that they don't wait until the Scarlet Witch is dead to finally give her own solo movie, but yeah.
Well, we might also see her. I know Dylan said Agatha is getting her own Disney Plus show, which is awesome. I think Agatha's a great character, and Catherine Hahn nailed it. So I'm excited for that. I'm hoping that maybe Wanda will appear at some point in that. I obviously, I don't know in what capacity, but like maybe she has to go back and I don't know. We don't really know any details about the Agatha show yet, but like the fact that it's happening, I'm like, ooh, maybe Elizabeth Olsen will pop up as Wanda in that or something. Because I mean, Agatha's so tied to Wanda at this point just because of her introduction into the MCU was of course in WandaVision as the main villain. So it's like, you know, it'd be kind of, I guess it wouldn't be totally like weird if Wanda isn't in it because it is going to focus on Agatha, and I don't know if it's going to go back in time and be an Agatha story, or if it's going to be after WandaVision and what she's doing now and like what happens. But I think it'd be pretty dope if Wanda did appear in that. You know, even if it's just like one episode or one moment or whatever, that would be pretty dope. But again, I really don't know what they're doing because I didn't really expect Wanda to just get crushed and then not see her for the rest of the movie. I'm not mad about it like some people are, because again, I don't think this is, I'm not even going to say think, I know this is not the last time we're going to see her, but I do feel like the ending of the movie was a little lackluster in that department because I was just like, oh man, like that I didn't expect that was literally going to be the last time. I thought that was going to happen, and then like, I don't know, we were going to see her at the end walking through the city with Strange being like, oh my god, I'm sorry again, or whatever, I don't know, trying to be like, I realized what I did again, kind of like the ending of WandaVision where she does kind of, you know, she obviously redeems herself and is apologetic. I was kind of thinking maybe it'd be that, but I don't know, maybe they would just want to fuck with our expectations and be like, well, she didn't make one final appearance, so maybe she's dead, guys, which again, I don't believe, but, you know, I'm interested in what we'll see her in next. It's very open-ended, so you never know.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. You know, when characters die in the MCU, like, they usually get a death that's very focused on and highlighted.
Yeah.
And I don't think that her, air quotes, death in Multiverse of Madness was anything of the sort. You know, like, it wasn't highlighted and it wasn't, like, you know, focused on. It was just, you know, some, like, the mountain fell and then we see, like, a little mini red explosion and that's supposed to indicate, like, oh, she's dead. And it's like, yeah, no. Like,
yeah, no, not that.
Like, yeah, you know, like, at least with, you know, like, a Black Widow, like, it was very drawn out, you know.
Yes,
and it was, like,
yeah,
very
and it was very emotional. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You know, same for Iron Man, same for, like, a lot of characters in the MCU.
Same for Vision dying 3 times and making me sad as fuck, so, yeah.
Exactly. So, you know, the MCU's most popular female character, they're not taking her out like that.
That easily.
You know?
That's
like,
true. Yeah.
Yeah, they would have focused on it, made it a lot more significant and meaningful and emotional. You know? Loki's done died like 40 times at that, you know. So like, dude, like the movie Infinity War opens up with this dude getting strangled and like his neck snapped, you know, and then oh shit, he has his own show now, you know.
That's
so
true.
It's like,
like
okay, like,
yeah.
Oh yeah, she's definitely coming back. Like,
I agree. I have no doubt in my mind. That's why I wasn't just like what Dylan said earlier too. I wasn't even that mad at Professor X's death, although I was pretty shocked at how it happened and how abrupt and scary it was with Wanda snapping his neck or whatever. But I mean, even all that, I'm like, you know, this is a movie playing with the multiverse. Like, he's gonna, you know, if they do continue with bringing the X-Men into the MCU, and if they want to end up having Patrick Stewart back, they can so do it and just say, oh, you know, he just died in another universe, but he's alive in this one. So, like, you know, there's so many possibilities that I really don't think at all that this is the end of Wanda. I mean, did the end kind of frustrate me a little bit because there was no, I guess, answer to that right now? Yeah, I guess a little bit upon seeing it the first time. I was like, man, that was it for Wanda. Like, what the hell? I was a little bit confused, but I have a lot of faith in Kevin Feige and the MCU going forward that she'll definitely be back, and it'll probably be even more epic and awesome, you know, the next time around. So we'll see.
Absolutely, I totally agree.
No idea where she's going to go next because there are so many options and so many choices, and it's just very exciting to know that there's. It's not like, oh well, what are we going to do with Wanda next? Well, there's nothing from the comics.
Yeah, yeah.
There's plenty
like a plethora of stuff. Yeah.
At this point, with everything that they've mined with the character so far, there's still a lot of untapped potential, which is very exciting.
No, I agree 100%. I'm glad we're all kind of in the same boat with that, because there are some people that were like, oh my god, she died. And I'm like, don't be dumb. Like, you know,
I was bummed out too. I think we talked about that, just waiting for both post-credit scenes, and it's like, yes, okay, sure, it's Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
Let's set up introducing Clea, because she's a big Doctor Strange character, so that makes sense for him. and then the joke other scene, which was funny.
Shout out Bruce Campbell.
A
Yeah.
reference.
Yeah.
And then Bruce Campbell beating the shit out of himself as a mountain people did too. Is hilarious.
Yes.
But
I did love it. I did love that. Even though I was disappointed at not seeing an end credit scene that would at least touch on maybe Wanda, I loved the Bruce Campbell thing. That was epic. I was like, oh, this is great.
Who did he play? What was his name? Papa Pizza.
I think it was Pizza Papa or Papa Pizza or one of those things. But not gonna lie, those pizza balls, they look kind of good. Really,
I know,
right? Try one. Yeah.
They did though. I agree. I was like, oh wow, that's different, but that looks good.
Yeah.
Well, do you guys have any other scenes, any other moments, anything we didn't bring up? Because I kind of have a pretty good, I feel like, wrap up and ending. It's a question that I want all three of us to answer. We kind of talked about it earlier, and we all know, I kind of know where you guys stand on it, but before I ask, I just want to make sure we did touch on everything you guys wanted to touch on with the movie. I feel like we did on my end. We kind of got everything that I wanted to talk about, but again, I do have one final question to sort of wrap up, but again, anything you guys want to add before I ask that?
I mean, I can't think of anything.
Yeah, neither can I. I think I pretty much got a
We've
lot of
talked
things
for
out of my
long.
system.
The
Yeah.
podcast is going on longer than the actual movie, so I think we covered.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's what I was gonna say. Well, and again, if you guys had anything, I wouldn't be like, oh my god, no, we're running out of time. I never want, our podcast to feel like we're stressing about time, even though I know the editing process is gonna be a little bit of a pain, and that's completely fine. I'm prepared for that, but I just love having these discussions with you guys. It's always so fun. But I guess to kind of, if you guys don't have anything else, I know we can have like final thoughts kind of thing, but I guess to wrap up, my question is going to sort of go, is going to sort of have to do with the name of our Skype chat here, which is Wanda Did Nothing Wrong, period. So my question to you guys is, do you guys honestly feel that Wanda is a full-on villain now, and she's, unredeemable, and she's, all these horrible things that a lot of people are calling her and have called her since WandaVision, but I think that's even more now. We talked about her popularity. I definitely think there's more, the majority of people love Wanda, and she's definitely getting the respect and love that she so deserves. But of course, there's always going to be the other end of the spectrum where people are haters, and that's just a thing on the internet in general, and that's just the way the world is nowadays. Everybody has an opinion, that's fine. But I have seen myself personally just people like straight up attacking her, just like with WandaVision, that she's horrible and she was going to kill a young girl when she was going to kill America, and it's just like all this crazy stuff. So what are your guys' thoughts? We can all go one at a time. I definitely have thoughts on it as well, on that and what people think of that. Again, everybody's entitled to their opinion, that's fine, but like, what do you guys feel about that and about the way she went about things in this whole movie in general?
I would say that, like, it's like selective memory with a lot of these people who hate her and call her villainous and evil, and she was going to do this and she was going to kill these people and blah blah. And it's like, okay, I think the movie really shows how much the Darkhold can have a dark hold on you, as a person. Like, it really corrupts you, and it even shows, like, it shows in that universe that Strange was thrown into, where he fought himself with music, which is a pretty cool scene. And that Strange in that universe had been corrupted by the Darkhold. I don't think that Wanda's evil inherently. Even in the end, with being corrupted by the Darkhold, she still ended up doing the right thing and making sure that nobody would ever be tempted by the Darkhold again. The Darkhold that literally made Agatha kill her own mother, in WandaVision, like, she sucked them all dry of their magic.
That's so true.
So it's like, if the Darkhold will make you fucking, like, kill your parents and,
Kill Sparky.
Yeah, I killed Sparky.
What a bitch. And I killed Sparky, too. It's terrible.
Exactly. Like, like Wanda, like the Darkhold just really kind of manipulated her longing for her children and her grief, and, knowing the kind of power that Scarlet Witch has, that's just kind of like a natural recipe for murder, So I don't think that, if Wanda wasn't corrupted by the Darkhold, that she would have pursued America the way that she did.
So do you think that even though, because obviously a big part of it too is just Wanda just wanting so badly to have some ounce of happiness and having her kids back, do you think that even though Wanda still would crave that and want that and desire that above everything else, do you think that, if she was more in the frame of mind of the Wanda that we've known from the past movies and even at the end of WandaVision, and the Darkhold didn't have that hold on her, do you think she wouldn't have went as far, I guess, as what she does in this movie? Like, do you think she would have been like, yeah, I miss my kids, but I have to, do what's right kind of thing because I am an Avenger or whatever? Do you think she would have, I guess what I'm asking is, like, you think her mind would have been more able to recognize that it was kind of wrong to do what she was doing kind of thing if the Darkhold wasn't present?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Her, like, if the Darkhold wasn't present, she definitely wouldn't have went as hard as she did. And she probably, if she didn't have the Darkhold, she probably wouldn't even know that her children were in a different multiverse.
Oh yeah.
True. Yeah.
At the end of WandaVision, when she
hears them.
Yeah, and that, that was just the Darkhold kind of like saying, like, dangling like a piece of cheese in front of her, like, hey, like, look, like, take a bite.
That's true.
And yeah, so she probably would have been in a lot of emotional pain naturally because she lost her children, she lost Vision, but she
again.
Probably would have been right, again, for like the 13th time.
I know.
But she would have been on the path to acceptance again,
and healing,
from that loss.
Exactly.
Right, as opposed to holding on to, like that whole crusade of like, all right, like, I'm gonna get my kids back some way somehow, and Darkhold was showing her how to do it, but at the expense of lives and so Wanda, at the end of the day, she's a hero. Like, people try to use WandaVision as a way of saying, no, she's a villain, and it's like, no, she's always going to be a hero regardless, because at the end, even though she made that mistake, which she did not know that she was making the town suffer, like, she immediately put it right and let them all escape, and she said goodbye to her world. I think that Wanda is a lot better than I am, because I would have said, fuck Westview, you guys are staying in this hex, and I'm having my happily ever after, so fuck all of you if you have a problem with it,
I love that, because I have said that to Dylan countless times. I was like, honestly, on a serious note, I give Wanda so much credit, because if it were me and I was able to bring, I think of it from you obviously, when you watch stuff, I feel like you relate it to your own life in some way. And WandaVision, I told you, touched me so much because of just things I've been through in my life. But, like, if I was able to bring those people that I love so much back, not necessarily like a lover like with her and Vision, because luckily, I still have my boyfriend. I don't even want to say it like that. Sounds terrible. But like, just other people in my life that if I was able to live in this world where they were there, like, I don't know if I would have the strength to be like, oh, for the greater good, I have to, like, let these people, like, I don't know if I could do it. So I always have given her so much credit for being able to sacrifice her own happiness for these random people she doesn't even know, but because she is an Avenger and she's a hero at heart and she knows, and she's had so much pain and suffering in her life that I feel like Wanda would never want to purposely put that on anybody else, because she knows how it feels, and she is, she is a hero at the end of the day. She is an Avenger. So, I mean, I think she was able to look at it like that and do that. But I don't know if I could. Honestly, I really don't know. Like, and that's why I love, again, I know we talked about it earlier, but what Monica says to her at the very end, like, given your power, given the chance, given your power, whatever, the exact line is, like, I would bring my mom back, and I know I wouldn't. It's like, dude, who wouldn't if you lost somebody in your life that was so close to you? Who wouldn't do that? So the people, I really do feel like the people that say, oh, Wanda's just a villain and I wouldn't do that if I were her, I feel like that's a very naive thing to say, because you don't, especially when you're in a grieving state of mind, you're in a completely different state of mind than what your normal frame of mind is. When you're grieving, it's so fucking different. So it's like, I mean, right now, thankfully, thank the Lord, I'm not in a grieving state of mind. Like, I haven't, knock on wood, like, lost anybody super recently. But, like, even I can think back to when I did, and it's just a whole different perspective that you have. So I have never seen, I guess for me to answer my own question, then Dylan will let, obviously, I already know you're going to totally agree with us, but just to give your own thoughts. But for me personally, I've never seen Wanda as a villain at all, even at the end of WandaVision. I mean, I know she was hurting people, but like you said, Josh, she did not know. And as far as Multiverse of Madness goes, the Darkhold played a big part of it, but even honestly, if it didn't, like, this is a woman that just wants her she wants some type of, just somebody in her life. We see her wake up in Multiverse of Madness after the dream, and she's just so alone, and it's like, man, like, she has freaking nobody. At least all the other Avengers had some sort of support or somebody, I know Hawkeye, she talks to Hawkeye at the end of, Endgame at Tony's funeral, and, they're talking about Black Widow, and they're talking about Vision in a certain way, but, like, he can go right home to his family, Hawkeye can, but, like, where does Wanda go? Like, she doesn't have that sort of escape, and it's just like, I've never seen her as a villain. I never will. I mean, what did she go a little far in this movie? Yes, but I think, again, the Darkhold had a big part in it, but again, she was just grieving all over again. And I've seen some people, which piss me off, say, Wanda's whole story arc in the movies now is just her being sad about something and grieving, and now her whole character is just, I want to be a mom. I saw that comment, and I screenshot it and sent it to Dylan. I was like, do you really believe that this is what some people really think? And again, everybody's entitled to their opinion, but, like, she lost everything. It wasn't just one death that got to her and scarred her, and one death is bad enough, but she lost her parents at such a young age in such a horrible, traumatic way. Her brother, her lover, her kid, like, everything. She just wants that one thing back. I remember when we got out of the theater, this is the last thing I will say on it, because again, to answer my own question, no, I don't think Wanda is a villain at all. I remember when we got out of the theater, my boyfriend, Ed, was like, who everybody heard earlier, I'll keep that in so you know that he's a dork. I love him. But we got out of the theater. And he was like, damn, man, Wanda was so dark in that. He was like, man, she was kind of, it was kind of fucked up. Or I forget exactly how he said it. And I was just like, yeah, but you have to think, like, I think he jokingly also said he knows how much I love Wanda and he loves her character too. He jokingly said, man, she was like a bitch in that. And I was like, yeah, but you have to understand, like, do you understand at least to a certain degree where she was coming from? I said, also, you have to remember the Darkhold. And he was like, yeah, no, I definitely get it. Him and I don't have any kids or whatever, but we're close to our parents, and we're like, yeah, like, she wanted that little bit of, just a little bit of happiness. Can't she just have that? Can she just have a little slice of it, please? Like, so, I don't know. I don't see her as a villain in WandaVision, and even after Multiverse of Madness, and just like you said, she corrected, just like she did in WandaVision, she corrected everything by the end of Multiverse. She, got rid of the Darkhold, made sure it didn't, I don't know. She was scary as fuck in this movie. Don't get me wrong. She was definitely dark and scary, and the horror stuff was great, but I don't see her as a villain at all, and I never will. Yeah. And no matter what anybody argues against that, there are people that really fully believe that. That's fine. That's their opinion, but as far as I can see, I can relate to her and her grieving and her struggles, so nope, I will never ever think she's a villain. But anyway, that's my whole long spiel. But Dylan, what are your final thoughts, and what do you think of, her as a villain, as people like to say now?
No, I mean, I think people that say that need to just go back again, which you guys kind of talked about, watch the end of WandaVision, where she realizes what she's doing, and she knows she's hurting people, and she lets them go. Unlike, I honestly feel like in Multiverse of Madness, if she wasn't corrupted by the Darkhold, yes, would she have gone so vicious? Probably not. I can't see the Wanda from WandaVision, even losing something else or whatever, uncorrupted, being okay with just murdering all those people. So clearly she's,
I agree,
grieving, and the Darkhold is corrupting her for sure. I will say though, because you guys said it all beautifully, so nice job. but I will say, kind of just to add on to that, the scene in WandaVision where, obviously you guys do, where she walks out of the hex. That scene's fucking chilling.
She throws the missile. Oh yeah, I love that scene.
And I always, and I'm not the only person that has said this. Plenty of people have said this, but I love the Magneto energy she's given off there. So even if she's not, I don't believe she's fully a villain in Multiverse of Madness. And Elizabeth Olsen has even said before, like, she loves playing Wanda because the character makes such big mistakes,
Right.
but at the end of it, she always does the right thing. However, corrupted by the Darkhold or not, I absolutely enjoyed some of her more villainous Magneto-level moments in this movie, throughout the whole movie. Very satisfying.
No, I
That's her
agree.
dad.
I agree. That's her daddy. I love that. No,
Oh
and
my
I said to you guys earlier, like, for me personally, I don't like characters that are just like, that just have to be like black or white. Like, it's got to be like, or that they have to be this white bread. I use that expression a lot, but like these just straight like fist in the air like heroes that are like, I really do enjoy characters that are anti-heroes. So I guess the best way to describe Wanda for me personally wouldn't be, I don't think of her as a villain at all. I definitely will always see her as an Avenger and somebody that does the right thing at the end of the day, but I guess a good word to describe her could be anti-hero to a certain degree, because she does a lot of things wrong, but that's just what makes her such a interesting character. If she was just, always doing the right thing, and I don't know, it just wouldn't make it for an interesting character to me personally. And that's why I love about a lot of the MCU, the Marvel characters, is they are flawed in certain ways, but and at the end of the day, Wanda always does do the right thing, like we were saying. So she might be flawed, and she might go about her. I mean, I know some people like jokingly say, "Oh, she just needs therapy," and like and it's like, okay, yeah, but like everybody deals with grief and depression and those emotions differently, and that was Wanda's way of. She was so alone at the beginning of, or before she created the Hex and WandaVision, that it's like I feel like I empathize with that character. I understand where she's coming from. I can feel it in my freaking heart when I watch WandaVision. I told you guys, when I get to the end of WandaVision, every single time, even though I know it's coming, when Vision disappears and her kids and the Hex closes in on itself, and then she's just standing out, where they were going to build their house, I just get this like heaviness in my freaking chest, and I'm just like, oh my god, like, and to some people it might sound, but I really do get an emotional attachment to characters that I really like. That's why I'm such a nerd, and I love so many different fandoms, and I'm just I get really attached, and she was just a character that I just gravitated towards, and I'm so glad that Dylan showed me the way, and I'm so glad that my stupid closed mind brain before was able to open up and let Wanda in, because her story is just so compelling, and yeah, I love it, and I love her as a character, and I'm so glad you guys do as well. And maybe some people will be like, well, you guys are biased, like what she did was wrong. Yeah, whatever. Those people are going to say what they're going to say, and that's fine. But
I love that. Like, you're absolutely right. Like, so yeah, like Wanda, she made some mistakes, but just like like I really identify with her character, and and I really felt close to her growing up in the comics, like, but the MCU's chain of events that have happened to her even hit a lot more closer to home. So because of that, it's like, holy shit, like I feel a lot of this in my chest when I watch these things happen to her, and I'm just
true.
like,
you're just like, you're just left like gutted. After WandaVision, I was just like, oh my god. And it's like, why do you want to torture yourself and watch something that's like not uplifting at all by the end? And I'm just like, I just love it. Leave me alone. I want to go watch WandaVision and be in my sorrow. Let me do that.
Exactly. Like, so yeah.
I love Wanda. I love Elizabeth Olsen, and Dylan, you're the best for introducing her to me to her.
Oh, well, I told you before, if you think I'm you get it now. But as much as I love Wanda, and you do now too, but I said to you before, if they go the X-Men route and include her in those stories, I'm going to be insufferable how annoying I am.
Just talking about Wanda.
But I do have one final thought. I was just going to say, I'm, again, the last podcast we did was WandaVision. And then, as much as you got into WandaVision and her story and whatnot, obviously we were like, oh, yeah, of course we want to do a podcast with Multiverse of Madness, because we were so hyped for it. But I'm super glad that both of us were like, hey, should we ask Josh to be a nerd and talk with us for 3 hours about Wanda, because he fucking loves her too.
Aww. Thank you,
No,
guys.
I love that too. No, Josh, seriously, thank you for coming on and for being willing to talk to us about this for so long, for hours. I know it's like midnight now. All of us are on the East Coast, so it's midnight. So we can totally like be done. But like, I really appreciate it, and I love your insight and all. I love that you just get into it as much as Dylan and I do when we talk about characters and certain things we're just passionate about. It's always awesome to find another person that can share. Not only in your interests, like, oh, we all love Wanda, but just, like, the amount of things that you're able to say about her is because that's how Dylan and I are. Dylan and I can talk for hours about, it can be a Resident Evil character, it can be Wanda, it can be anything that we're just passionate about, and it's always so awesome to find another, this is not an insult, this is such a compliment, but, like, another nerd like we are that we can just talk about it for hours, so I love it. So you being a Wanda nerd is awesome, and I seriously thank you for coming on.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you guys reaching out and asking me, and it's always a blast whenever I chat with you guys, podcast or not, it's always a fun time. So again, thank you guys so much for having me. And yeah, Wanda did nothing wrong. Period.
There we go. That's how I'm ending it. That is so how I'm going to end the podcast when I edit it. I'm just going to fade out from there. That is perfect. We don't even need to say anything more. The podcast can be summed up in those freaking 4 words. Wanda did nothing wrong.
Oh my